A very good evening to you, wherever you happen to be watching from Australia, New Zealand or around the world. Welcome to the ASR Supercars Championship, round number 2, the Melbourne 150 from the Albert Park Grand Prix circuit. It's Old Faithful. It is the same Grand Prix layout we used in 1996 all the way through till 2022 when the layout officially changed and everything was rounded off. A whole bunch of corners were rounded off. A couple of corners were deleted for the arrival of the current generation Formula One cars. We're not using that layout. We're using the 16-turn layout from the majority of the years that this circuit has been on the Formula One calendar and a part of the Supercars Championship. My name is Steve DeVries. Opposite me, of course, is Benjamin Rody Rhodes for the season. Rody, we had an interesting round a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago in fact, not the usual 3-week gap at Winton. A couple of first up winners and a different looking points championship heading into Albert Park, but not only did we have a slightly different format at Winton, we've got a slightly different format this weekend as well.
We do. Good evening to everybody watching along at home or wherever you are. And yes, we are doing a different format this time compared to the last format. Last time was 3 equal length races with a top 50 reverse grid. This time out, it's a sprint followed by a feature. Points are also changing up as well. You get double the points for the longer race. But the important bit is the longer race brings in the strategy.
That's exactly right. So it's what we call the short and long format, or the sprint feature format, if you've tuned in for some of those types of racing in the past. So there's a shorter distance first race, there's a longer distance second race. An important part of both races is there's no compulsory pit stop requirements. So drivers are free to pick their strategy. Probably not going to be such a factor in the first race, but it will be a bit of a factor in the second race. Drivers have got some very hard decisions to make around what tyres they want to use. Do they want to fuel save, not fuel save? Do they want to sprint and try and build a gap and see if they can open up a margin that they can come out and and use the soft tyre to their advantage? There's quite a bit of strategy that's going into the second race of the night, but that's for the second half of proceedings. The first half of the proceedings is going to be, of course, all about the sprint racing. So 10 laps for race number 1, and 19 laps for race number 2. So basically double the distance. First race is about 50 kilometres there or thereabouts, and the second race is roughly 100 k's in length. So that's where we get the Melbourne 150 from. And speaking of 150, that's what the points are for a race win in terms of racing tonight. So let's actually have a look, Rhodey, at the driver's standings, because we've actually got one round in the books, well and truly, after Winton. Shorter gap than usual. We are squeezing a couple of rounds in before Easter. If we have a look here, it's a former series champion at the top of the standings, almost banking the entire maximum points on offer from Winton with 292 out of a possible 300, and that's Kurt Stenberg.
Absolutely, and not a big surprise there if you're used to watching from prior seasons with Kurt's pace there. Was only really challenged on paper by the likes of Wayne Walker, who took away race win number 1 in his first full-time round in the series. Unfortunately, the reverse grid format, or partial reverse grid, played in a way that favoured Kurt Stenberg a lot more than it did Wayne Walker, with Kurt winning race number 2 and Walker 18th on the grid. Walker was able to recover in race number 3, though, to finish second, but very much being down in 18th put him off a little bit, and then also being set up from there to only get back to second sort of hurt him a little bit. And in the end, the surprise second place wasn't actually Wayne Walker, it was actually Anthony Green, who is doubling this year between Dev Series and Supercars, and even on the Supercars pace, probably looks stronger than he does in Dev Series right now.
Yeah, you're certainly right. He was the sort of the joker in the pack out of that one there, being up in second place overall in the standings, and drove pretty solidly throughout the Winton round. Lewis Wedding is really the odd one out, I guess we can call it, in the top 10 there, because he's a substitute driver. Very quickly stepped in for Luke Rosella, who unfortunately couldn't take part at Winton because of a local power outage in South Australia. I believe Luke has actually just managed to jump in the server tonight in the last few minutes, so he will be out there tonight, and we'll look forward to seeing what he can do in the number 55 machine, I believe he's running this year for BWT Pixel Sim Sports. And then rounding out the rest of the top 10 there, a couple of newcomers. You've got Ryan Smith in there along with Anthony Green, who's had a good start to the series. He's missing tonight. Brenton Foley and Tim Redmond, a couple of seasoned veterans there, rounding out the top 10. And over the page, we go and have a look at the teams' points. There's only 10 teams on the standings here so far. There's a couple more teams that are off the page, but looking at the important ones here. New teams, Sideways Esport Light, getting off to a flyer there, 388 points ahead of the BWT Pixel SimSport Camaros, and Amped Up Racing by CRE, followed by Wayne's World Motorsports. So drivers that had 2 team cars turn up to Winton really paid some dividends there. So when you look at BWT Pixel SimSport, if Luke Rosella hadn't had Lewis Wedding there to substitute for him, they wouldn't have been even featuring in the top 10. They probably would have almost been 10th or off the page, Rody. So it goes very, very worthwhile having a handy substitute available at short notice.
Absolutely, having a substitute available in general, but especially at short notice. And there's no shortage of people to really pull from if you are looking for drivers. There are a couple of Supercars drivers who have already sort of submitted themselves to be fill-in drivers only, the likes of Luke Rosella and also Hans Brunswick at the sister team for Pixel. But plenty of other drivers as well out there that have come up or are available from the Dev Series field. I know plenty of guys in the Dev Series field wanting to get in behind the wheels of these cars, but quite simply the attendance has been such that we haven't really had a need for too many of them. I think one of the first guys to come in from a purely Dev Series role this year is NZ Snipes, who at a very, very, very late notice is filling in for Pete Thrower, who's having internet issues.
Yes, that's right. So we'll see NZ Snipes in a few moments' time. He's actually literally cutting his first couple of laps as we speak. Luke Speck's the other one that's come from the development series as a substitute for Ryan Smith over at SES tonight as well. So, and then Scott Murrell, who actually, believe it or not, is a Dev Series driver, but hasn't done 2 rounds in Dev Series due to work commitments. He's actually been substituted in for both rounds for the last tonight and for last time out 2 weeks ago into Ben Hall's Mustang for the Luke McHugh Racing stable. So we'll get to see him in a handful of minutes. A couple of drivers just a little bit tardy at the moment, just getting a few things together before we go racing. So let's have a look at the track here. It's the Albert Park Grand Prix circuit. As we said, the older layout, just south of the Melbourne CBD. So Modern day, it's about 5.2 kilometres and 14 turns. The layout we've got is the original. It's the 5.3 kilometre, 16 turn layout. That was the original layout from when the Grand Prix moved from Adelaide to Melbourne in 1996. So it's not as free-flowing, Roadie, as what the modern-day equivalent is, especially up through the back section of the circuit, the turn 9, 10, 11, 12 there, which is a little bit more free-flowing nowadays than it was back in the day. But apart from that, it's still a fan favourite with a lot of the drivers, and it's plenty much wider than what Winton was 2 weeks ago.
Absolutely. Opinions are a little bit, I won't want to say polarised. There are a few drivers out here tonight who, if their contract allowed them not to turn up, probably wouldn't be here. I know Tomo, at least coming into it, was a little bit disgruntled about being at Albert Park. But generally, yeah, the feedback for this track does do pretty well. And it's sort of been on and off the calendar just as availability has been present for it. But it's still a very popular track. I have a feeling the new layout perhaps won't play so well into a supercar, especially with where Gen 3 is at. But yeah, still a very good popular format, and the advantage, as we mentioned, it's a lot wider in pretty much every part of the track than Winton is. So it allows for more racing, but also it gives you a bit more room to have a mistake.
Yeah, you're right. And I was having a bit of a look today at what sort of times people were doing at the pointy end of the scale, like sort of into the 1-minute 53s for the ASR drivers, and then comparing that to IRL and just seeing what the equivalent is. And it's about a 6-second differential, so 6 seconds faster in the current modern day equivalent compared to the older layout. So in reality, it's like, I know we're fairly close in terms of the physics with the mod, but it's actually not too far off real life, probably what I would imagine real life would have been. So I'm actually keen to see what our mod could do around a modern layout of the Grand Prix circuit, but that unfortunately is for another time, as drivers are just being told now that it is time to go qualifying. There's only one qualifying session tonight, and that sets the grid for race 1. Race 2 is a progressive grid, and of course is the longer distance one. So that's a different element to what we have on a couple of occasions. We do have some dual qualifying and some top 10 shootouts and a few different mixed formats to come throughout the course of season 2024. But we're starting it off this year before Easter with 2 different round formats. We had the triple header last time with the revised format of the reverse top half of the grid for race 2, and tonight we've got the sprint and feature to go along with everything. So it is time to go qualifying. There's not too much track activity at the moment. Looks like there's around about 27 of the 29 drivers that are registered for the series. So great turnout, Roadie. Good number of drivers backing up from Winton. A few drivers that didn't join us at Winton are joining us for the first time tonight in Supercars. So a few drivers still yet to probably fully come to grips with the machinery underneath them. And the lineup in pit lane is already starting, and that's not a surprise considering that it is only a 10-minute session to get out, get qualifying done, and get back in. So the outlap's roughly around about 2 and a little bit minutes, about just slightly over 2 minutes. So you've really got to be on the pace, because by the time you come around and start your first flying lap, you're already going to have eaten about 2 minutes and 10 seconds or so off the clock. So important to get out early and set an early banker lap, because you need to get through your run plan rather hastily.
Absolutely, yeah. It's 10 minutes, normally not a short session when it comes to qualifying, but just for the length of this track, it's one of the longest tracks we go to. Obviously Bathurst is longer again, but being an FIA Grade 1 circuit, you don't really have too many short FIA Grade 1s. So very much plays into that as well. But as per ever, head of the queue is one of the CRE cars, and it's Daniel Cox from CRE and Motorsport getting him out for qualifying.
It certainly is. So actually Rosella was about 3rd out, and he needs some laps under his belt too. He hasn't done too many laps this week, I think. Probably has done a few offline, but not very many online. And I'm looking to see who is still sat up in the pits at the moment. The Will Devonish, Lockie Lock and NZ Snipes having not left the lane just yet. NZ Snipes definitely there. And just keep it, Lockie Lock's just left the lane. I think Will Devonish maybe is the only other one, and he's in the lane too. So Devonish and Snipes, the only 2 not in the lane. Is our maiden race winner last week, or 2 weeks ago as well, Wayne Walker, finally putting a new name on the ASR winners list, in not only in 2024 but in the history of ASR Supercars. So that was good to see. It it's not the same perennial place getters up the front roadie. Good to have a new name to throw down a bit of a challenge this year, I think. And Wayne's definitely up there, top 5 material from when he debuted at Adelaide last year, and it's definitely going to have a little bit of something, I think, for some of the seasoned veterans. But I'm going to be keen to see how he goes up against Luke Rosella tonight.
Yeah, this was one of the things I was looking forward to seeing last round, partially based off some of the pace we've seen in practice and some of the prior sessions. But it never wasn't quite to be with Rosella out and Lewis in his place. And I mean, Lewis still came second, so good. It was still a good challenge, but maybe wasn't quite there. But yeah, that's really sort of the question mark. We already know what Kurt's pace is going to be like, and we did see what Kurt and Walker were like against each other last week. And with an even balance that we're going into it, they were pretty much line astern, which is good to see. The question is going to be where Luke falls into that. He's had the pace to win a season. He's had the pace for you to win a couple of seasons. Just how things have shaken out. He was arguably on pace, a challenge to win last year. Just started the season too late. But this year, I mean, he has missed a round already, and apparently he's going to miss a few more. But the pure sort of round-to-round stuff is going to be what plays into it. See yellow there is Kiddis, that's Walker's teammate actually in the fence out of turn 2. Yeah, Walker is now on his first flying lap.
Yeah, Walker's on his flying lap, and Kiddis has gone back to the pits after that one. So first flying laps are underway, and at the moment just keeping an eye on sector time. So Luke Rosella, purple first sector, 37.146 for sector 1. Plenty of green on there as well. A couple of drivers still in the 37s. Kurt Stenberg 37.2. He's the closest one to Luke Rosella at the moment. And a couple of drivers in the high 37s, and then the rest after that. And a purple middle sector for Luke Rosella as well, 29.703. So he's actually tucked in here behind Peter Thrower, so he's actually probably going to get a nice little bit of a draft down the front straight. Sorry, not Peter Thrower, it's Tim Redmond, I do apologise. So he's probably going to get a nice little toe, I would say, up the front straight here, Rody. He's definitely in that sort of sweet spot where he's not too close to Tim to be being hampered, but he's definitely going to get the benefit, especially up this long front straightaway here. This will be a handy time. This will be the early benchmark. I'm expecting probably going to be diving somewhere into the 53s or 52s, and it's a 52.8, so good opening salvo there, and well clear of the drivers that have set some times at the moment in the 55. So you had Egmanis and Cox that set 55s. Noah Tara's now popped up with a 54.3. Best times we were seeing in qualifying, probably in qualifying trim, or in practice trim, I should say, were in the low 53s. So about 0.3 of a second quicker than the fastest time we saw in free practice.
Absolutely, just watched Kurt Stenberg pop up there into second, still half a second off of Luke Rosella's pace, and Walker's done his first fly as well. He's in third, another 10th off of Stenberg's pace. From there, it's a gap of nearly a second back to the best of the rest in Noah Tara, with Aidan Williams popping up in the top 5 there.
Yeah, and Wayne Walker had a purple final sector as well. So Rosella held the cards in sector 1 and sector 2, and Walker with a 45.9 in sector 3. So that's actually pretty handy time in sector 3. Having a look here at Anthony Green in the number 10 Autobahn SES entry. He's going through, he's just completed sector 1, actually 0.6 up on his personal best as it sits right now. So that would actually be enough to leapfrog him up to about 8th at the moment if he was to maintain that pace through the rest of the lap. That'd be putting him up there with currently Stephen Burko and Leonard Grossel, who are 7th and 8th on the road respectively. He's actually just gone past Burko for coincidence sake, and lost a bit of time there through sector 2. So, and he's actually bailing out of the lap. So I'm actually not surprised at that. He's made a bit of a poor run and has given that up, and probably good timing, I would say, because we're just over the halfway point in this session, and probably a lot of drivers I can see already exiting the lane and with a new set of boots and going again.
Yeah, this is about the point where you're going to be wanting to start your second run if you're going to qualifying up that way. The tyre life is such that I suppose if you're mid-pack, you could probably get away with, and especially for those guys without practice, you could probably get away with doing one big long session. The tyres are going to feel a little bit second-hand by the 3rd or 4th lap, and obviously you have to carry enough fuel for the entire run. But yeah, for those guys that are doing a split qualifying strat, doing either a 2 and a 1 or a 1 and a 1, or maybe a 2 and a 2 if they're feeling quick enough, This is about the point where they're going to start to decide it. It takes you something in the region of 2 minutes from memory from Dev Series last week, and these cars were a little bit slower. So give or take 2 minutes to get out from your garage, out to pit lane, out and around on an outlap, and that's assuming you're actually carrying on with pace the entire time, not as Anthony Green's having to deal with a blue flag for a car on a lap behind you. But yeah, if you're not out of the pit lane in the next probably minute or so, you're not going to have a final crack at a run here.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the key piece, isn't it? Timing your run around things. As actually, I was just going to have a bit of a look at Luke Newing, who's actually debuting tonight, but he's just gone back to the pits, so that makes a bit of a mockery of that one. I was about to say he is actually he's substituting for Rory Collins for the SES team this week, and he's on debut this weekend, and already 5th place in the standings at the moment, so not too bad a time at the moment into the mid-54s for him. And Stenberg will probably have 2 bites at the cherry, I would say, here, with about 2.5 minutes on the clock, and the fact it takes about 1 minute and 50 odd seconds to get around, he's got plenty of time to get 2 laps in. Everybody else behind him's probably going to only have a chance to do 1. So here we go, Luke Newing coming out again. So this is cutting it rather fine. A couple of drivers here, Locke, Newing, Bailey Hall. They've only just exited the pits. So these are the drivers that if you're in the pits now, you're the likes of Noah Tara, Leonard Grossel, Steve Burko, Zach Brown, Will Devonish, NZ Snipes, who hasn't set a time yet. Neither has Will Devonish. He hasn't set a time either. You are not getting out there and setting a lap because you have run out of time to leave the pits and get around.
Yeah, I think I remember a discussion prior to the start of the season on the point of Will Devonish that he did discuss throwing up the idea of starting rear of grid for the season. I know something that he did actually go and qualify from memory for Winton, but perhaps at least with Stenberg, Rosella and Walker all there to play with each other at the front, he's probably maybe decided to enact upon that for this one, because I feel like if Will was going to be out for a lap, he would have set one by now.
Well, I was about to say, if it was going to be a reverse grid challenge for Will Devonish, he would have been better off if it was long and short, not short and long, because it gives you a bit more time to come through the field over the course of 19 laps rather than 10 laps. As Liccardo starts his last flying lap, he just got a track cut for that last one that he was on, so that's unfortunately gone in the bin, and we'll need to start again in the Burson Oil Parts entry. Oh, big moment for Murrell just ahead of him as well, in the front of the shot there, and he's gone back to the pits. We might see if we can fire up the old Paint Doctor replay, and let's have a look at this one and see if we can see what happened to Scott Murrell. So off of the exit of turn 2, it looks like here for Murrell, through turn 1, through turn 2. That's rather nice. Stepped on the pedal, and very strange for Murrell. Just car veered left. Didn't look like it was under power. Good driving by Liccardo to get through there as well. Nicely done.
Absolutely. Just going to look now to see if I can confuse him with the last one to start a lap. Warwick's crossed the line with 10 seconds to go. I'm not sure if he's going on again. From there, Williams is going to go through another lap, and I think
he's missed out.
Yep,
so that's it. So Brendan Ross is the first one to complete his last lap. So what's he going to chalk up? He was 20:30. He hadn't set a time, so he vaults up to 7th. So for Ross, that's not a bad marker to go with there. Anthony Green, who was 12th, has bailed out of that lap. He's pulled into the pits. Daniel Cox is next. He's inside the 10 at the moment and stays 10th. Improves the time, but not the place. And the next one I'm looking for is Dane Liccardo. So he hasn't set a lap at all, so he needs this lap. He's set a okay time in Sector 1, okay time in Sector 2. It's not flash, but at least it's a time. And he will have a time on the board here, but he's probably going to be, I'd say, 13th or 14th at this rate. No, actually, worse than that. It's 21st. So, unfortunately for him, and that's not the way you want to end your lap there, Dane. I don't think. He's got across the line there and gone back to the pits. And Higginson in 13th is the next one to the line. I think someone behind him, which is Luke Speck, who's substituting, and Higo's pulling off to the pits for that one. Speck's going to go through in the super cheap car, and he currently lies 20th on a 157.1, and he's just done a 155.3 and vaults up to 11th. So nice improvement.
Not bad.
Very nice improvement.
Yeah, we missed it as well in that train, but Kiddis was another driver who hence at a time. He's made us up a few spots and up to 22nd, so he's starting.
Locke ended up 7th.
Dane.
So Locke ended up 7th after that, and then behind him, Newing actually went up to 4th ahead of Aidan Williams. So that's not bad at all. So quite achiever, Luke Newing in that one, 154.1, good enough for a berth on the second row next to Wayne Walker.
Yeah, that's not bad at all, actually. That's a really good run, especially, yeah, for your first lap in. And Newing was one of those guys I mentioned who very much put himself down to be a wild card, very much could take a slot on the grid, but at this point, just penciled in to be a wild card, just I think where his schedule will allow him to compete. But yeah, that's a pretty good start. And, you know, if SES don't have him on retainer after tonight, I think a few other teams might be starting to pick up the phone. Although that is just special qualifying, you've still got 2 races to go.
That's it. Got to prove yourself. Yeah, being fast over a single lap is one thing, and being fast over a race distance is another. Well, at the end of the day, Rhodey, it's the old sparring partners who are going to be on the front row for this one. You've got your pole position winner there. Second pole has been awarded for 2024. It goes to Luke Rosella, who is a former champion from a couple of years ago. And he's going to be alongside Kurt Stenberg on the front row of the grid. So a couple of Camaros going to spar off against each other, I think we'll say, on the other side of this. So there we go. Not an unfamiliar sight, let's put it that way, Rhodey.
Yeah, 2 Camaros on the front row and then a pair of Mustangs behind them. So there is at least some sense of parity in that top 4.
Parity, yes. 2 Camaros, 2 Mustangs. As we said, Rhodey, we didn't give a rat's bottom about the parity talk in the off-season. And it's just good because from the way we've looked at it, the physics are the same between both cars. We don't have to worry about the parity talk. We just worry about the racing. That's all that we care about.
Exactly.
All right, so with that, we end up with a short practice session just for drivers to get acclimatised. So the likes of NZ Snipes that have unfortunately didn't cut a lap in that one will have an opportunity to go out and just make sure they're familiar with the car. Going to be starting off the back of the grid. In actual fact, that is precisely what he is doing at the moment. So we get our first look not only at car 56 tonight, but at the driver who was in Supercars for the last couple of seasons. This year decided to step back to Super 2. He was eligible to step back to Super 2, along with a couple of drivers. Steve Burko, one of them, and Cheese, who's the other one that stepped back, and doing fairly well. He led the championship out of Winton, so that was, and actually got, I think, his first win in it was about 4 years, I think it was, when I did the maths and had a look at the statistics that Brendan Ross has put together. So that was a big surprise. First win in 4 years and leading the championship after a solid round of round 1. But for Snipes here, Rhodey, these cars are very, very different to the cars he would have driven over the last couple of seasons and to his Dev Series cars. So he's got to get up to speed fairly quickly, even though he's starting at the back. I don't think there's going to be too much pressure on him, though, from Pete Thrower, who's probably sitting there in a badger hole somewhere with his mobile phone and his data usage going through the roof right now, seeing what he can do.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, it's no shortage of experience for Snipes, aka Kane Gray. But no, he's very much taking the option to step back to Dev Series this year, which makes some sense. It lines up him. He's been familiar with the Dev Series field for a few years. He was in broadcast up until this year alongside Lewis Wedding, but stepping back has obviously vacated that spot for him. But it's sort of given the opportunity to, you know, one door closes, the other door opens. And very much, again, to go back into Dev Series this year, along with Cheese, to have that sort of focus for the pair of them, very much sort of came up as the Kiwi Sim Sports under development or the development squad, as that sort of the prior team to be on racing sort of revolved through a few different phases. But yeah, it's a good opportunity now for him to get out onto the Supercars grid and to sort of maybe compare himself with some of the guys that he watched in the previous years make their way up through Supercars. But he very much has a feeling capacity for tonight. I think he might. I can't make an adequate call as yet as to how well he's going to adapt, because the cars are different enough this year. I've already heard from a few guys, the guys that are filling in. So like Luke Speck is here tonight as a fill-in. He's talked about the fact that, you know, he's been running Dev Series and how the Dev Series cars drive and the Supercars cars drive very noticeably different to a Dev Series car. It's not like you can jump in and make one or two mental tweaks. That is a different car as opposed to what's been previous years. So it'll go one or two ways for Snipes. Either it will it will improve his adaptability in a way that we don't really see too much in ASR, because we don't tend to swap drivers between cars on a whim like this. Well, not on a whim, but as frequently as we're doing this year between Dev Series and Supercars. Or if the adaptability isn't quite there, then maybe, another round or two worth of fill-ins, we might see Snarch start to run the sort of pace we used to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and the thing too is as well, Rhodey, there's still Enduros coming up as well. So drivers that do want to run the Enduros, they do need to get familiar with these cars. And a lot of the development series drivers I know have put some interest forward and are very much looking at potentially running in the Enduro Cup this year, which is of course Bathurst and Sandown, or not in that order, Sandown first, Bathurst second. That's how it works. But the big news, and we can say this officially now because it's been announced within the ASR Discord and its expressions of interest are out, the big news is that this year we are going the whole hog. It is a Bathurst 500 and it is a Sandown 500 and a Bathurst 1000. So very first time in ASR history, the Bathurst event will be a 1000. It's been the 500 since 2020. And we step it up and go the full distance this year. It's about time, I think, too, Rady, because a lot of other series around the world, iRacing, it doesn't matter whether you're iRacing or you race on a Assetto Corsa or you race on any of those sorts of series, they all do 1,000 kilometre races. So I think it was about time, and what a time to do it rather than this year with Gen 3.
Absolutely, yeah. It's something that it's sort of been in the back of our minds for a little while. You very much want to sort of give people. There was strays either way with AMS especially, and some of the older sims. You start to run into issues of stability, issues of game performance as you tick the hours on. I know we've run stuff previously, even the 500s we've run previously. The broadcast stuff has occasionally been a little bit finicky, and for drivers, and something that, to be fair, gets drivers even in a 500, but something they'll have to keep in mind for a 1000 is that even unless you run your game at a proper potato level of graphics, which I've had to do in the past, your PC won't survive 6 hours straight in the server, regardless of whether you're driving or not. So very much sort of getting into a more regimented system than they've been previously, where you jump in a couple of laps before your stint, you run your stint, you get out of the car, you leave the server. You come back in next couple of laps before your stint. Because if you sit there and soak your computer in the game, it will come a point where it'll decide no more, and you'll have a runtime error or something like that. And that's happened to guys in the 500, and it very much kills a race. Especially, we saw this with Steve Burko, I think it was last year. Oh, sorry, it might have been Matt Cecil last year at Sandown. Coming up, I think it was a lap or two. Well, basically, I think the lap they were going to come in, they had a disconnect for much the same sort of reasons as I'm describing there, just due to how much soak that's spent in the server. So that'll be something for guys to pick up on, but definitely a full length Sandown 500 and a full length Bathurst 1000 is something new for a lot of the drivers in the field. And look, we're already getting big interest as well. We got some of the guys that are Supercars full times this year that are coming in new. So I think I've seen Walker and Kidders have interest in it. I know we got a couple of the guys that have raced previously. So Brad Severs, aka Rolzak, has posed interest. He's got a couple of his mates coming on board as well, potentially. So we're going to have a very international grid. Not that we don't already. We've already got the likes of Leonard Grossel in Supercars and Stuart McNichol in Dev Series. But definitely going to see a bit more of variety across the grid as things are playing out at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of things playing out, a few drivers having some dramas in the warm-up, and I think there's a few extra cars we inherited. I'm not 100% sure what's happening there. Maybe an extra driver or two joining the server, but a few drivers have crashed out. So we're just asking people to just double check on their settings and make sure that they can get back into the server. So we are in a slight holding pattern here while we get a few drivers to go through those sorts of procedures. But I guess let's have a bit of forward thinking here, Rody. The different format tonight: sprint race first, longer race second, with a gap in between, only one qualifying. What's the strategy here? There's no tyre rules in place in terms of you don't have to run the hard, you don't have to run the soft, you can run whatever tyre you want. There's no compulsory pit stops. So what's the strat for race one and what's the strat for race two? High level.
I think for race one, the strat, there is really only going to be the one strat, which is going to be to run the softs. You can very much comfortably make it without stopping. I think from the math I saw, it only takes like 100 liters. These cars have more than that in the tank. I think they're bigger than they are bigger. Well, they are bigger than the Dev Series cars and last year's cars, which are at 112 from memory. So yeah, they've definitely got more than enough fuel on board to run this as a no stop race. The only thing that would play into that, and we saw this with Dev Series last week, is that if you're far enough down the field and a safety car comes out, lap 10 laps here, so it'd be maybe lap 5, lap 6. Definitely a consideration if you're already that far back to just put on a new set of softs. It won't matter much, but a new set of softs will make a difference right at the back end of the race, and that's really where, in that last sort of lap or two, once everything goes green, that's the opportunity to pick up some spots. Something that I did in Dev Series, and I started spinning at the last corner of the last lap and made it work pretty well. Race 2, it's probably a similar thing to Dev Series realistically. It's either going to be soft with a stop, and realistically, if you're doing soft, you're going to only carry enough fuel for that stint, plus a bit of margin for error. And then hards, you can run the hards, and ideally, if your pace works for it, something I don't think we're necessary from the front runners unless they've been putting the work in. The option there is to run the hards and no stop. It's possible, but there's going to be some fuel saving involved. The way it works out, it seems that the tanks are proportionally bigger than Dev Series in the same way the race is proportionally bigger. So what I'm saying there is it seems from what I'm hearing is that the fuel burn required, which I think from memory from last week was 6.8 liters per lap, was somewhere around that figure. That's what you want to be aiming for if you're running hards and doing a no stop in race 2. That said, that's my notes from last week in Dev Series. Not only these different cars, those are roadies fuel numbers, and people know by this point not to trust those. But that gives you a rough idea of what people are looking at.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we do. There is a new hashtag around roadies fuel numbers is the hashtag. If you want incorrect information, I guess is the where we'll go with this one, Roadie. It's been a meme for a while. It was about time I had to squeeze that one in.
But it's so as I said in the intro, there's very much a strategy to play. Race 1, I don't think we'll see anything strategy-wise at all. It'll purely be down to pace and maybe a little bit of a little bit of spice at the back end from those at the back who gamble on a set of softs. And yeah, it doesn't have to be those at the back on pace. It'll be those that end up at the back after race 1. I mean, after the first lap or two, with where Will Devonish is probably starting, he could be one honestly to take something with that if he can't make it through the field in the first 4 or 5 laps. But race 2, yeah, I can see a wide variety of options out there. The easy giveaway for us and for you guys watching at home will be the sidewall colours. You saw in qualifying, everyone was on the white sidewall. And I mentioned this a few times, partially for those in the watching at home, but also for me, because I'm having to ask people before each round because it's not quite in my head yet. But the white tyres are the soft compound, or the white lettering is the soft compound, and the yellow lettering is the hard compound, which, as it turns out, it's actually backwards to how F1 does it. But so that's going to be the giveaway as to where the strategy is going. I don't think too many people are going to run hards and try and stop. The only reason perhaps there would be run the hards and maybe do a little sip of fuel, but the pit lane transit time is so long, even if you're just picking up fuel, I don't think anyone's going to do that. Versus the softs in race 2, you can pretty much guarantee they're planning for a stop in the middle.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the bit that I was looking at during the week is if there is a safety car at some point in the second race of the night, the longer distance race, pit lane's going to be a very busy place. It's going to be quite hectic in there, and not just from the point of view that there's a lot of traffic going to pit lane. I mean, that's an obvious part of the equation. But the bit that I want to draw your attention to is what we're about to bring up on the screen right about now, because for the very first time in ASR Supercars, we are using the Supercars pit entry. And because we have so many cars, we are using the Supercars pit entry. You can see there actually are some drivers that have gantries in that section of the pit lane. They're actually a little bit further down. You can just see, if we zoom in here, you can see there's a handful of gantries that are there just underneath that second part of the grandstand. And that's just because of the sheer numbers this year in Development Series. There's actually a need for extra pit spots. So it's a longer transit time. For a lot of years we had the Formula One style pits and we just packed everybody in up the top end of town, and sort of had to rejoin a whole bunch of cars together. Everybody had to park together. It's chaos in the pit lane. So we've actually spread it back out, opened the supercar pit up, and while it's a longer transit time, it means there's a lot of drivers that can now share a boom, and you can share it safely because you've actually now got gaps in between all of the teams that are sharing those booms. So there's plenty of room for everybody to get in, conduct a pit stop, and then get out and go racing. So it will be a busy place. It probably won't be as chaotic as it has been in seasons past, but it still will be a very, very busy place if the safety car comes out. Now, that will be determining whether or not drivers move on to the soft tyre or whether they stay on the hard tyre or switch. Like if they've gone for a soft strat and it's an early safety car, we can bet your bottom dollar they're going to put the hard tyre on and try and go from there, because the soft tyre probably isn't going to make it over that remainder of the stint. But if it's in the second half of the race and you're on a hard tyre, well, you'll come in and you'll put the soft tyre on and you won't be in too bad a position at all. But if you've stopped, you're probably going to have no choice but to come in again and stop, because drivers around you will be on much better rubber and you won't be able to fight with them. So there's plenty of strategy, as we said at the beginning of the night. The strategy call, not so much in race 1, but in race 2, is going to be super, super important.
Absolutely, and I will say, I was thinking back in my head as you were describing the pit lane layout. We've very much taken the lead from F1 this year, but we've done the opposite. F1 decided that F1 and its supports needed the entire pit lane. We've decided that Supercars needed the entire pit lane. So, it's obviously going to open things up and make things a little bit easier to work with, but it also jack the transit time up quite a bit, which is going to influence how people choose to strategize their race. Speaking of, we are not far off of race 1.
Yeah, I was about to say we went off of race 1, but at the same token, he jumped. We're just looking in the server to see one person that didn't had their game boot them, and I'm hearing that that driver is currently away from their machine. So I'm waiting to see whether or not we are actually going without them or whether we are waiting for them to come back.
Well, I must say we're not far off race 1, which is a little further than my statement was meaning for us to be off, but we're still not far off. We are getting there.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's the bit that I'm sort of looking at as well. So I'm in the process of sorting that one out, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I appreciate that we're in, our third warm-up session now, and there are still plenty of drivers keen to try and get extra laps in from this session. There is a 6-7 car queue at the end of pit lane to get out, and I think the Antigua might have jumped the pit lane queue to get out anyway.
Yep.
But will be probably some guys practicing starts in here as well, with the opportunity afforded to them. And, I hope the 2 or 3 guys that actually got practice starts in there found something from it, because we are, hopefully, finally, now starting race 1.
I agree with that one. Looks like we are getting ready to go racing. So the first of the races tonight, 10 laps will be on the board for the beginning of this one. So got a few drivers just waiting to, they said there was a queue up at pit exit, and we have drivers now sitting on the track waiting to go racing for this one. So first race tonight is race 4 of the season championship. And looking like we've got about 26 or 27 cars. Actually just getting some word through. Brenton Foley may not be taking this one. He's having a few pedal dramas for this one and a few steering wheel dramas, so he is going to sit this one out by the looks of things. That's the PBF 074. And here we go. Oop, Rosella waiting for the jump. Wayne Walker was keen to get going, but we're underway on the formation lap, Rody.
Alrighty, so starting off of pole for his first race in 2024 is Luke Rosella, leading the BWT Pixel Sim Sports team tonight. Starting alongside him is Kurt Stenberg, current points leader for Anticorp Autosports in the number 47 Camaro. Third is Wayne Walker for Wayne's World Motorsports. He's had a pretty good run so far this season. As I mentioned, a win and a second place, and setting himself up well off the second row of the grid. Strode something similar again tonight. Fourth is Luke Ewing, one of the Phelan drivers, and I think I would say actually the highest we've seen one of the SES cars, but definitely the highest we're seeing one in the start of the race today. Fifth is Noah Turra for Amdot Racing by CRE. He's had a good season, actually proving himself as the fastest CRE driver so far as things are going. 6th is Aidan Williams. Good to see him out on the grid in the number 33 Williams Racing machine with the Rocksters sponsorship. 7th is Curtis Egmanis, Facelift Engineering, ahead of his teammate Will, who is starting off the back of the grid. 8th is Lockie Lock, the teammate to Noah Tara. He's had a good run as well, to start in the top 10. Brendan Ross starts out of 9th with not a lot of practice from what I understand today, but still obviously putting in the time where it matters. He's starting from 9th position with Leonard Grossel out of 10th. He's actually putting very little practice for things as things sit as well, so good to see him in the top 10 as well. 11th is Steve Burko for C7 Satellite. He's had a pretty good run today as he's going. He was quite off the pace early on, but he's managed to find himself a setup that'll work for him. With Daniel Cox in 12th for Sierra Anson Motorsport. A little bit off where we normally see Coxie, but he'll work his way up. 13th is Luke Speck for SES Team Dark. He's filling in for Ryan Smith today, so it's good to see how Specky goes with his sister car in Anthony Green, the other SES light car in 14th. 15th is Nathan Higginson. Good run for him on qualifying, actually, based on where his pace was looking in practice. I think in Media Motorsport, with Tim Redmond in 16th, a little off the pace where we usually see Tim, so he'll work his way up through the field. 17th is Steve Warwick for Renshaw PBF Blackshaws. Fairly quiet run for Steve in qualifying, but he'll improve from there. 18th is Cam Rutledge for Sierra Anson Motorsport. Another one I see moving their way up. Zach Brown for 19th for Pixelated Elf Autosport. He's got some work to do with Darren Logman out of 20th. He'll have a good run for his racing team. 21st is his teammate in Bailey Hall, who makes his first start tonight as well, with Dan Liccardo in 22nd for SES Team Dark. Alex Kiddis in 23rd, he has some work to do for the Waynesville Motorsports number 218. Scott Murrell filling in again for Ben Hall in the 22 for Luke McHugh Racing. Will Devenish out of 25th. Phil Boak out of 26th. And NZ Snipes filling in for Pete Thrower. There we go. Filling in for Pete Thrower in the number 56 for Beyond Racing out of 27th on the grid.
There you go. That is your grid for the first race of tonight. 27 cars on the grid as we line up and get ready to go for the first one tonight. 10 laps is the duration. This is the first race of the Melbourne 150. Race 4 of the championship season. 2 sparring partners on the front row, and here we go for the 10-lap sprint. Rosella with a beautiful conversion from pole position. Off into the distance he goes. Have a look at Anthony Green. He had probably the best start of the lot of them. He was on the inside heading down to turn 1. There's a couple of mirrors and things that have gone flying already, which is not a surprise considering the close confines of these cars and that they are a little bit of a wider track. But right down the back of the field here, Steve Warwick is having a look there. He is getting his ears boxed in. Oh, and there goes Redmond. So there's a bit of contact there. More mirrors go flying. It's a massive logjam from about 16th on back. A lot of bumper cars and stuff going on. That's Brendan Ross in the Pixel Simsport car caught in there as well, with Will Devenish trying to make his way through on things as well. Oh, sideways action for Rossi, and Devenish wasn't ready for it. And a little bit of Morse code on the right rear quarter panel there, and all sorts of shenanigans going on in the lower half of the field. But I was mentioning this before. Have a look at, there's actually a move being sized up here a bit further up the order. Leonard Grossel down the inside of Luke Newing. That's at turn 9 and 10. He's got that done. And Aidan Williams is trying to go with him. But then there's Anthony Green. He's up to about 8th place, having started, where did he start, Rody? He started like about 16th or something?
He was 14th.
14th.
So he's already up to 8th and a run around the outside of of Newing, who's probably going to give him the run, I would imagine. Newing is a fill-in for SES, but I imagine very much...
Oh, and Ross is around! And Ross is around at the back of the field, and there was a bit of bumper cars and things going on there, and he's come unglued at 11 and the high speed 11 and 12, being caught out on the outside there, so he's dropped to the rear of the field, so he'll get going. Bit of ugly contact there, I think. If we go and have a look at our Paint Doctor replay, this was getting on with it. Heading up to the high speed turn 11. So here we go. Look at this, Roddy. There was 2 cars deep. There was a bit of contact there between Warwick and I think it was Redmond, and it's hard to see from that angle if there was any contact nose to rear between the PBF Renstall car and the Pixel Simsport machine.
Yeah, I think if there was contact, it would have been light, but it just would have been at the perfect time as Rossi had gone to turn for the corner. The rear would have been pretty light, very easy to pivot a car from there. What it has left, unfortunately, for now is it's left the two BWT cars bookending the field. And yeah, the race is still on. I mean, the race is still on, but somebody didn't bother to tell these guys in the 10-lap race here, because the midfield's racing like they're on the final lap of every lap of this race so far.
They certainly are. Here's the onboard view from Aidan Williams, sat up in 7th. He's tucked in there right behind Lachlan Locke in the 237 machine. That's an ambitious move going down the outside there towards turn 6. You're not going to get through there, but maybe trying to set it up for an over and under switch. Nope, not quite done there either. This race, there's about 6 or 7 different battle groups at the moment, so it's going to be hard to keep track of the action. So apologies if you can't follow your favourite driver at the moment, because they're out there somewhere. We're trying to find them all as Aidan Williams goes through. Oh, who was that spun out? That was that Grossel?
Yeah, it was Grossel. Yeah, he's dropping back now past Steve Burko back into 12th.
Yeah, so he had a spin there as well. Now he was in there with Luke Newing, I think, at one stage, so he's lost about a half a dozen spots out of that in the 666, but it looks like he's continuing on without too much damage. Then come behind him is the two Vortex Racing Team entries, Lochner, followed by one we call the Mobile Orange Traffic Cone, or self-imposed name, Mobile Orange Traffic Cone, in Bailey Hall.
I mean, he likes to think of himself as traffic cone, but with the colour and with the stripes on the bonnet, I think of that thing more as a basketball than a traffic cone.
Oh, I'd agree with you on that one, actually. It probably does look more like a basketball. So here we go. Yeah, this is game. That's a nice move. Over and under switch from Aidan Williams on Noah Turra. So feigning to sort of go around the outside, but then dive for the open gap. And Williams, will he be in a position to scythe down the inside here at turn 1 and take 4th away from Turra? Threshold of braking, room given. Great racing between the two different drivers of the two different marks heading into 1 and 2. But that was a nice sort of catch your opponent off guard moment for Aidan Williams, feigning like he was going to follow the normal racing line, then diving for the gap when the gap was left open. And now he's in a position on the inside for turn 4 and 5, but he's on the wrong side for the next corner because that goes to the right. So Tara's got the high ground, but this is bringing Newing back into play. And now Noah cuts the nose off here, so he's got to take a defensive hold here. You've got to be super careful when you pull a move like that, or you're going to end up getting a contact, and that's because he moved over in the part of the braking zone. The rejoin wasn't spectacular, but he's lost 3 spots and still hanging the tail out along with it.
How that wasn't a Bathurst 2016, I do not know, because it looked like a mirror image of it. That was really opportunistic from Newing, and I think Tara probably saw better of it and just saw that Newing wasn't going to give him any space. They just had to take one for the team there, but that could have been a 3-4 car accident easily, especially with the training cars behind them. But yeah, that's put Newing through
there
ahead.
Goes Igmanus nearly has to shortcut the chicane, so he had to outbraked himself there, and this will give Tara the run down the inside to turn 12, and sorry, out of turn 12 through 13, and now on to turn 13 is what it is right now. Sorry, down he goes and gets that move done, and actually no, he did get that move done actually, and bailed out of it. But this is an angry pack.
Yeah, they're still boxing onto the back as well. Gross is trying to get back into things as well. He's currently dealing with Anthony Green, who's also currently trying to deal with Lockie Locke. That said, but he's lost his opportunity with Lockie Locke. Termo's wide again. That's put him back past behind Lockie Locke. There's a fastest lap, I think, somewhere in all that as well. I think it might have been Williams, or actually no, that would have been Newing. But
it's hard to follow.
I can't keep up with this, yeah.
There's Burko just ran wide in the background of turn 1 as well, so he was running in about 10th place, so he's just coughed that up to Leonard Grossel. But Lockie Locke is under heavy fire here from Igmanus, who's now down the inside, finally up at turn 3. And Locke will hold it around the other side of turn 4, so good hold there, good exchange between the intra teams there. So CRE Engineering and amped up by CRE, the sister supports, and Green's waiting to pounce if anything goes wrong as he's slowly made his way through the field. Devonish, who started off the back, has got as far as 13th, so he's got through half the field. Unfortunately for him, there is no half-grid reversal for this race, so wherever he finishes is where he will start the next one. He is just in the back of shot there. He's about to round up Darren Loughlin. That's the sister car to this one that's on the screen at the moment.
Oh! I just saw a monumental accident behind Will Devonish.
There's something going on there.
Luke
Yep.
Speck and I think Steve Burko.
Yeah, I was actually, well, Luke Speck's one. I've got a funny feeling it might be one of the PBF cars was involved in that as well, which was Boak. He's the only one that's out there. As we have a hone in on our Paint Doctor replay for the second time tonight. Let's see if we can figure out what's happened here. I've got a funny feeling that Speck might be caught up in this. No, he's tried to bail out of the move and whack! Big T-bone, and Burko caught in that as well. So some heads-up driving from Luke Speck to try and avoid the contact from the minute he knew there was going to be a problem. But unfortunately ended up T-boning the 046.
Yeah, I think the effort was very much there to try and get out of the move, but then caught a slide, I imagine, as he got into the grass, which is what spewed him back across to the left there. Probably some damage on Burke's stuff. I think any more than anything else, just the shock, because you don't see that sort of stuff coming, and he came from an angle that he wouldn't have been in Boak's mirrors at any point there, so he would have turned in the corner, all of a sudden, whack, have an SES Mustang through your door. So that's probably the bigger impact of the lot for Boki. That said, he's still out there going. He's a couple of seconds off where Burko is now, and actually I'm just back with Speck, and Ricardo and Hall are going pretty racy over 21st into turn 1.
Yeah, threshold of braking though when you're on the dirty side of the road in these cars. It's going to go the car that's on the high ground, and Ricardo with a bit of a slide job there, and that might be all that Bailey Hall needs to get through, and it was. So mistake under acceleration out of turn 2 allows the Vortex Racing number 38 to get through well and truly before turn 3. So smart situational driving there, put the pressure on, force the mistake from your competitor, and capitalise when they make that mistake.
Absolutely. A couple of drivers that are already working on their recovery drive, some a little better than others. In the back of this shot now is Brendan Ross as well, who's back up to 23rd after being sprayed off early. The other car that was involved with that actually got sprayed off a little bit later through contact.
Oh, big hit of the wall for Ross. Big hit of the wall for Ross there. And just sort of slid out like we've seen a couple of the supercar drivers do IRL on the more modern equivalent of the circuit. Just understeering wide, just not getting the line right, giving the outside wall on the driver's left a heavy clout through that quite high-speed approach to the chicane. Still maintains 23rd, although he might get one of those positions in a minute because the Bailey Hall machine there just toured the grass like what McManus did a couple of laps ago, as race leaders have commenced their 6th lap. So this goes to show you how far out spread the field is right now. Race leaders are, oh, there go Snipes in the background. Race leaders are already halfway through.
Yeah, so just quickly give them some mention, because the way they're racing, we're not going to see a lot of them in this race with where all the action is. But Rosella's checked up and out ahead of Kurt Stenberg by about a second and a half, so he's got pretty clean air to work with. Stenberg's, I think, fighting his tyres a bit more than any other cars at the moment. And then back from Stenberg to Wayne Walker in there's about another 2-3 second gap there. So they're all running very much in their own train. And Ewing's tacked onto that now, and he's running in 4th. So the head of the battle is actually still with Noah Tara and Lockie Lock. They're the head of the first train back there for 6th and 7th.
Yeah, so just having a look at the last lap times through. So Rosella was a 56.4, Stenberg was the fastest lap of the 56.1. They're the only two drivers in the 56s. Then Wayne Walker on screen here, and then Luke Newing behind him. They both did a 57.1. There was only 200ths of a second separating them last time around. So they're pretty evenly matched at the moment, the 3rd and 4th. And then you get to the next group of cars that are in the 58. So Aidan Williams, who's just now starting to kick away here from Noah Tara and Lockie Lock. He did a 58.0 last time around, and that was the fastest of the drivers that were in the 58s. Incidentally, Lockie Lock did a personal best last time around, 58.2, and Devonish 57.5. So Devonish has got some pace, but he's just in the traffic, so probably really can't truly unlock the potential of that pace because he decided to start from the rear. As he's, here we go, he's now made his way into the top 10. He's just passed Anthony Green.
Absolutely. I was just having a look back at the train, and actually I think what we've just seen is Dan Liccardo DNFing.
Yeah, we've lost Liccardo, and we've lost Higginson after I'm not sure how many laps.
Actually, and Kiddis is backwards down at the back end of the back straight.
Oh. So,
and that was an average rejoin as well.
Yeah, so he's rejoined in front of Murrell and in front of Snipes. So was this self-inflicted on his own? We'll get a bit of a look at this one now on the Paint Doctor replay. So down at the end of the back chute, under braking. Oh, and I think bit of a difficult one to call there. Looks like he may have squeezed a bit of room. Did the right thing, turned the car, point the right direction, and oh yeah, right in front of Murrell. No, that will be a penalty. That will be a penalty for an unsafe rejoin. That's a big no-no, that one.
Alrighty, looking further up the field now. Just looking at this nice two-car battle between Phil Boak and Steve Burker. I'm still mentally frazzled from the first few laps, and at this point I'm actually trying to avoid looking at Ashton because it gives me half a chance to think.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult. It has settled down a little bit now. I will give it that. We're on lap 7. It has settled down a little bit since the early going here, but I guess that's what happens in the sprint race. There's always all sorts of fun things to look at. Drivers trying to take advantage of the shorter race format while they've all got the soft tyres on. I haven't seen anybody out there on the hard, if I'm being brutally honest. Sorry, no, I lie. I lie. I have just seen someone on a hard tyre, and it is Zach Brown, because there is a yellow sidewall.
That's an interesting call.
For a 10-lap race, be on the hard tyre, but granted, I don't think Zach has done a huge amount of practice this week either, so this is probably just some testing for what may happen in the next race.
It's probably he's probably sacrificed race 1 so that he can see. I imagine his teammates have decided already, the hard tyres the strat to go to because they've had the chance to practice it, and he hasn't. So he might just be out there essentially running a simulation for race 2 in the first half, but running a first half simulation for race 2 in race number 1.
And the hard tyres will do that to you as well. He's just gone off the road there, so he's lost the train now of fighting with the CRE 015 there of Cam Rutledge.
Actually, we say that actually. It might be something the Pixel guys are looking at because I just noticed Brendan Ross right behind him is on the hards as well.
Yeah, well, Rossi was starting a bit. Actually, he qualified fairly reasonably up the order as well, so he would have qualified on the soft, but then he would have been racing on the hard. So, yeah, interesting call there, I would say, and that maybe has possibly been the cause of a few drivers that may have been caught in some of these skirmishes over the opening couple of laps of this race, is that they've been on the hard and they've lost the tyre advantage over the cars around them, but the tyre advantage may swing back the other way a bit later in the race. It's a bit more of a consistent tyre this year, the hard. It doesn't wear as fast. It has a lot more longevity, so it makes it a more viable strategy option. And a few drivers are starting to look at it and understand it a little bit more, and that it has potentially got some knock-on effects that it can be beneficial for. Whoop, there's a half-hearted look there for Igmanis down the inside of Grossel at 11, and nothing there. This is for 9th and 10th. Heading down the back chute. No DRS in these cars, obviously. It's rear wing would probably be set up for the middle drag, and Grossel off the road, so there goes the place. There goes Green. Cox, is he close enough to send it up the inside? He does at 14, and a little bit of side-to-side contact. That's a little bit of rubbing. That's not too bad. And they'll go side-by-side round the penultimate corner. Now into the front straight, and good, hard and fair racing between the two Camaro pilots. Oh, and I say that, there go the mirror covers.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a boop on the behalf of Grossel, just catching a slide off the last corner, trying to get the thing turned in and trying to get some speed out of the thing. In the end, all they've done there is actually, outside of a little battle between themselves, is they've let the two cars in front check out, so they're going to work together and now try and catch them back up, but I think Grossel's too worried about that. Or if he's going to work together with Cox, he wants to work together with being the lead car rather than being the following car, as he's all over the back of the 94 trying to make a pass happen somewhere here.
Now, Noah Taro has managed to gazump Aiden Williams at some point here, and I don't think Lockie Locks may be too far away from doing the same. Looks like Williams is in a bit of tyre hurt at the moment. His last lap was a 59.9, Tara was a 58.9, and Locke was a 58.1.
Actually, I know. Okay, so I was going to say it might just be the way that these cars are set up, the way they behave differently to the Dev Series cars. the two CRE amped up cars are on hards as well.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think the call is that you run softs, but you have to conserve them a little bit in this race because of the drop off, versus the hards, which now, because as you mentioned, the hards have better life, and it's because, as it turns out, the life parameters will basically switch one over the other. So the soft had the wear parameters of the hard, and the hard had the wear parameters of the soft. I think what we're finding now, because the soft is so much more of a peak tire in terms of like peak life cycle, up down. I think that's what we're seeing now. I think we're seeing the opening of the hard tire for the strategy, because this is probably just long enough that you're falling off the other side of the peak of the soft tire. And this is where we're starting to see, Williams pull back, and Tara and Locke both pull their way up towards the front of the field. Like, they're not catching the cars in front, but at this stage they're the best of the rest, as it were, if we disclude the top four. So they're doing pretty well. And actually, speaking of CRE drivers, just not far off the back of shot and actually just passing Williams now is Will Devenick, who started off the back of the grid.
Yep, there he goes up to P7, and you're right, he is on the hard tyre as well. So it's been a bit of an obscurity. We've not been sort of paying too much attention to that, but this was probably a borderline whether or not soft tyre was actually going to make the distance. I think a lot of drivers probably had penciled it in to think, oh yeah, it's a sprint race, it's a soft tyre, let's go for it. But it's about how you use the tyre. You over-abuse it, you're going to wear through it a little bit harder. So some drivers may have been able to make it work, but at a small price. But this is now very, very useful information for the race coming up after this one. So there'll be a short break, a couple of drivers will come and have a chat, and then we'll get into race number 2. Of course, no qualifying in between. Devenish now lining up a pass on Lockie Lock. We'll go back to our race leader. So the man who started on the pole, he's led all 9 laps so far, and the 80% of this one, or nearly 90% of this one now. Just 2 corners to go before he returns to the top of the winner's rostrum for, don't know how many times now. We'll have to do the math on the after thing here. But Luke Rosella, former series champion of a couple of years ago, will come to the line over last year, the year before's champion in Kurt Stenberg, and takes victory here in the sprint race in a little over 19 and a half minutes. Actually, on 19 and a half minutes, it was just slightly under. So good job for Luke Rosella there, and fastest lap of the race to boot as well, 155.6. Good drive for him. Kurt Stenberg second, and quite a margin back at the end of the day, 8.4 seconds from Stenberg to Wayne Walker, who was the first Mustang home, and he was also home in 3rd place.
Absolutely. So I was just having a look as we're finishing up there. All but 4th place in Luke Ewing of that top 4 were on hard tyres as well. So
wow.
Ewing made his way up through the field, but those front runners start up the front, and yeah. So I think we might have missed that one there, or at least I did in my head. I think the soft is probably like an 8 or 9, whatever it is. It's not a 10-lap tyre. So I think what we're going to find is that the hard, I think we might even see a situation, the way this is looking, but maybe a hard, or a hard with a stop or something. I think what this does is it throws off our predictions for race 2 straight entirely.
I think it does, yeah. So let's quickly run through the top 10 here as well, just to finish them up. So Newing was home in 4th, Noah Tara 5th, Lockie Lock actually stayed ahead of Will Devenish there for 6th, so Devenish from the rear of the grid up to 7th. And then Aidan Williams was 8th, Green 9th, having started 14th. And then Igmanis down 3 spots, having started 7th, finished in 10th. So that's where we ended up with that one. And we roll through the rest of the finishers. Cox ahead of Grossel. And then Redmond, who came up 3 spots over Boak. And then Burko behind him, 15th. Darren Loughnane, first of the Vortex cars home, ahead of Zach Brown, and then Brendan Ross, who was very much on a recovery drive there. Rutledge, Speck, and then the balance of that was Murrell, Kiddis, Snipes, Warwick, and then Bailey Hall was the last classified finisher home. Ricardo didn't finish, and neither did Nathan Higginson. All right, cars making their way back to pit lane after this one. What a wild and frenetic race that was, Rody.
Yeah, and it perhaps leads into where things were looking just based on the tyres people were running. I think a lot of the battling we were seeing was for the most part, soft tyre runners. And perhaps that's what's actually influenced the drop off for the softs, because I think that we've seen the softs work somewhat. Like Newings managed to make them work. Williams up until the last lap or two had made them work. I think the strategy for this race was actually you get away with the softs if you weren't battling. And to be fair, I don't think too many people. Ross nearly missed the pit entry. I don't think too many people in their race simulations had planned for actually battling with other cars, because that chews through more tyre than just doing laps. So I think Newing is a good example, because I don't think we saw too much battling for him at all. He just kind of got past the two CRE cars and then disappeared. I think the soft tyre was only really viable if you weren't battling, and so I think that's probably what's brought a lot of people unstuck. In the end, the hard you need is still being in a good position. I mean, Ross was out there on the hard. The best he got was 18th. So you had to be positioned well for it at the same time. But yeah, it's very much sort of cat amongst the pigeons. The strategy goes with what battling, I think, is now doing to the tyre wear, at least for this track, if not for the Gen 3 cars as a whole.
Yeah, well, it sounds to me that if, as you said, if you're in clear air, that the soft tyre is good because you can manage your pace, but you need to use the soft tyre advantage to clear the cars in front of you. And depending on how long you sit in the traffic and how long you take to clear the car, that's going to chew up some of the quality of that tyre. So I think a lot of drivers are going to take a fair bit of information away from this one. And well, we're going to start to dissect a bit of information. We're going to have a quick podium chat here, Rody. We've got our top three from race number 1 today, race 4 of the championship. And where would you like to start?
I'll quickly get the last of what I was doing with the points done so we can swing over to the interviews. I'll probably go back to front. So, starting with the winner of the first race of the year, only third tonight, but still a pretty comfortable third in the end. Wayne Walker, how did you find race number 1?
I don't know. The track felt a little bit slippery to me. Yeah, like other than that, the race went pretty good, I suppose.
Fair enough. I think the slipperiness might just be down to potentially us having to cycle races, cycle the sessions to make sure everyone can get in time. So that might be an influence to it, but also could be just a result of where your setup was running on with the hard tyre. But I'm gonna probably talk to all three drivers about it. But clearly, you guys picked up on something that we missed in the broadcast. Were the softs not viable for race number 1?
No, I didn't think they would make the race distance, like 10 laps. I did a race run in practice and they were quite low and started to get quite slippery, so decided to go the hards.
Fair enough. And so I suppose once we get into the race itself, then picking up a pretty comfortable third in the end, you put yourself up in a good position for qualifying. And then I suppose once the race came out, words. That's what this race has done to me. The lack of words. But how are things looking from where you're seeing? Just fairly cruisy experience.
Yeah, I didn't. I was trying to push to sort of keep up. But I think, yeah, Luke and Kurt both had a little bit more pace than me, and yeah, so I just had to sort of go around in third place.
Fair enough.
Be happy with that.
Exactly, and it's still good points in the end. Still a good 129 point haul for the race, and crucially, with how everything else played out, I suppose with everything, with how things played out for Anthony Green, you have provisionally moved yourself up to second now in the championship. Still a bit of a way to go to catch up to Kurt Stenberg, but a good haul of points out of race number 1.
Yeah, that's right.
Alrighty, well, great work in race 1, Wayne, and we'll probably have a chat to you again after race number 2, but good work in race 1, and good luck for race 2.
Thank you.
Alrighty, moving up to second place now, and as I mentioned, he is leading the points. He's given himself a bit more of a lead now with how things have played out, and Kurt Stenberg, not quite enough to catch up to the BWT car, but still a pretty good run for yourself in the 47.
Yeah, pretty good run. Happy with the pace. I seem to have good long run pace. So we weren't very good on the opening laps. Same problem we had, but we caught Luke back up towards the end. So car's very good over a long run. So positive signs despite what it may look like. We're closer than what we thought we'd be. So happy.
Absolutely. Well, that was something I was going to mention. You've already sort of teed that off. So, still running into the issues with the tyre life, or I suppose the tyre performance early in the stint. But I suppose for a stint this long, it doesn't really make too much of a difference.
Yeah, and I think that's what helps me in the back end of it. So I'm not sure exactly what's causing it at the start, but I definitely think it's making the tyres better at the end. So that's not a bad thing, especially when we're about to head into a long race. So at least I know how to make the tyre last. Pretty happy. Did a bit of testing this round, and I think what we came up with strategy wise is pretty good.
Absolutely. Do you reckon you're going to have enough to close the gap to Rosella for race number 2, or are you actually going to play it as it comes?
I'm going to play it as it comes, but I think I've got something up my sleeve that we can try. So, I mean, it just depends on what you do. So, it interesting to see how the tyres last in the last one, because I'd be honest, the wear was worse than I expected on the hard in this one. And, I mean, I didn't think the softs were viable in that first race as it was. So, it's interesting, that's for sure.
Alrighty. Well, good work, Kurt, and we'll probably catch you again in a little while. But great work on race number 1, and we'll see you in race number 2.
No worries. See you there.
And finally, in his first race, and very much starting the season off strong with 100% attendance to win record. Nice to see you back in the Pixel colours, Luke Rosella, and picking up where Lewis Wedding left off.
Yeah, of course Lewis did an amazing job in round 1. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. A lot of understeer though. I think it's mainly due to the track group resetting, which wasn't, it was not what I expected. But yeah, it is what it is. Just had to drive to the conditions. But yeah, really good fight with Stenny. We joked about it after the race. It was a bit of a time trial session between us, a bit of a lap time battle. So no, it was good. Just I think we gave up a little bit of pace towards the end. So I don't know why that is. I probably have to have a bit of a debrief about that. But no, it's good.
Yeah, so I was going to. Okay, so then with 10 laps of hard tyre running, what's that do for you now with your thinking for race 2?
I'm actually pretty surprised people even ran the softs. Yeah, we threw them in the bin after like one race run we did in testing. Yeah, they just go to shit. So yeah, we were a bit puzzled why people chose the softs, but yeah, I think race 2 is going to be pretty interesting. I don't really want to give away our strategy, so
Fair
yeah,
enough, and I'm not going to ask you to do
I
that.
guess.
All right, well, good work. Obviously, you got a bit of catch up to do for the season, having missed the first round, and from what I'm hearing, you might be missing a few more as things go. But at the very least, your focus can be on results for the races you can make, and so far a perfect record. Hopefully, you keep that up, and we'll catch you again in race 2.
Thanks, Freddie.
Alrighty, and that's been our podium sitters from race number 1.
Good on you, Roddy. Thank you very much. Good to hear Luke Rosella's voice again as well. It's been a little while since we had him in commentary just to have a quick chat with us. And I did hear on the grapevine that when he came back into the series halfway through last year as the changeover for Lewis Wedding, we did hear from him at the bend, and we didn't hear from him again. And I'm led to believe it wasn't so much a gag order, it was just a behavioural clause in the Pixel SimSport contract that sort of said, you are to be a saint for the next thing you're here to help us win a championship. And that's exactly what he did. He helped them win a championship. If he had been in for the whole season, probably would have been throwing down the gauntlet to Will Devonish and probably walking away with last year's title, I think, is probably what we would have expected to happen there. So that it's good to hear his voice back. So that's where I'm going to leave that. I'm sure you agree with me.
Absolutely, yeah. It's good to hear, and it's good to just chat to some of the guys. Like, it was only 2 weeks ago now, but yeah, good to see Luke's back on the grid. And as I mentioned, he's missing a few more rounds. His championship battle won't really come to much this year, but crucially be there when it matters, and we might be there to take points away from the likes of Stenberg, of Walker, of up until this round, talking about top 3 Anthony Green, although he's fallen a bit back with where the strat's going. But that'll be an interesting one to play out, as well as that. We've seen in broadcast what 10 laps of hard tyre running or 10 laps of running on tyres now means. Even if they weren't driving the specific car, I imagine most drivers in the field have now seen what 10 laps on a set of tyres means. So they're perhaps formulating plans in their head. Like I and perhaps that's the reason. I wouldn't throw myself. You know what? we like to throw roadies having bad strategy calls. I'll throw myself under the bus for the team. I predicted for the PBF guys, especially for Leonard, who hadn't get a chance to do much practice. I said to him, yeah, it'll be softs for race 1 and soft, or hard no stop for race 2. I very much hope that he's taken everything that I told him and just thrown it clear out the window. Because
I was about to say, if you're giving that
we're not doing too well for race 1, and completely. If you're listening now, Leonard, throw it all out the window. Don't listen to me. You've got Phil there, you've got Foley there, you've got Steve there. Listen to the guys that actually know what they're talking about. I'm way off.
I was about to say, we had Roadie's fuel numbers, now we've got Roadie's tyre strat. So it's not been a good night if you're giving that bit of information. The bit that I think was lost in all of what we were thinking about during that race until it became a bit too late was, yes, the hard tyre was definitely the viable tyre for that strat, absolutely. But I think a few people might have miscalculated, that are on the soft, may have miscalculated the fact you've got to do the formation lap. And it's a 5.3 kilometre formation lap, Rodie. I mean, you're not doing it at full pace, but you're still going to take a little bit out of the tyre at the end of the day. So you do need to factor that. And if you're doing like a practice start or something off the start line as well, you've got to factor that in as well. And we were talking about, you've got to think about how do you use the tyre to get past the cars around you, but how do you preserve those tyres as well? For some drivers, they had different strategies in that race. They were starting further down the order, so they needed to use the tyre to make time and to make places, but they were always going to take the pain at the end of the race. Whereas the hard tyre drivers, if they qualified on the soft and they started up the front and put the hard tyre on, they were always naturally going to fall back, but as water typically finds its level, they were going to be a little bit more consistent and sort of be bobbing along at that sort of consistent pace for most of the race. So it's the trade-off. You just got to think about what you were trying to realistically achieve in that race, but a few drivers probably miscalculated that they needed to do an extra lap on those tyres, and then probably just got the math slightly wrong because they knew that the wear was going to be a bit higher. And it was interesting to hear the likes of Kurt Stenberg saying that the hard tyre wear for him was a bit more aggressive than what he originally thought. So that's then, if I'm listening to that, I'd be sowing a seed of doubt into people's minds that are seriously thinking they can get the hard tyres to the end of a 19-lap race without stopping. We've got bigger fuel tanks this year, but by the same token, it's now no longer whether or not the fuel is going to make it, it's whether or not the tyres are going to make it.
Yeah, I think that's what I was talking about with it, just to try and throw in the options, and I'm that far deep into a night that I can't sit down and come up with ideas for anyone who's trying to watch the broadcast for any last minute tips on how to play out race number 2 at this point.
Before you go on, Rodie, you go on, and this right now that we're watching on screen here with Noah Turra and Cam Rutledge trundling down the pit lane, this is probably the reason why a number of drivers are a bit apprehensive about what's about to happen in this next race. The 40 kilometre an hour pit lane speed limit. It is a crawl. In supercars, it's been this way for many, many years. In Formula 1, IRL, it's an 80 kilometre an hour lane. For supercars, it's 40. So a lot of drivers are probably looking at this and wondering, hang on, if I can save myself the 40 kilometre an hour trundle plus the stop time, where am I going to be? And I think a few people are now starting to doubt that the hard tyres are actually going to give them any benefit by trying to stay out after that first 10-lap race.
I think realistically, where we're almost looking at this point is, I don't think no stop is an option at all. I think you're either looking at either a stop, you're either looking at probably like, and this is roadie strats, don't take it for any water in it. I think this is either going to be a hard or like a soft. I think we're looking at a minimum of a stop, and maybe some guys considering a 2-stop. But the problem is, I think, it's ultimately going to probably come down to everyone running hards, stopping, and running hards again. Or, well, actually, no, it has to be hards running hards. Either that, unless the safety car falls at the right time.
There's going to be strategies in here. So I mean,
there is still some strategy, but I think what we found out is it actually narrows it down a bit, because you're not going to run a 2-stop. The only way you're going to run a 2-stop is if one of them's on the safety car, because the transit time is the longest in the calendar by a lot. Because not only are we doing an F1 length pit lane, we're doing double the F1 length pit lane, and we're doing it at supercars pit lane speeds. I think I haven't actually done the full transit time, but like like the transit time from the top end of the pit lane to the bottom end of pit lane is uncomfortably close to the lap times that you do around something like Simmons Plains.
Yeah, it's better part of 45 seconds, I think. I haven't done the math myself, but you're right. It's an eternity.
Yeah, Simmons is only like 10 seconds longer. So
yeah, exactly.
That's a long time to be in pit lane.
Yeah, absolutely a long time to be in pit lane. I'm actually thinking that there's going to be two sort of schools of thought here, Ruddy. I'm actually thinking that a few drivers might gamble on a hard, a few drivers will gamble on a hard soft, and some will gamble on a soft hard, just depending on where you are in the field. And I think a few drivers will have worked out, okay, I ran the hard tyre in race 1. I've got a rough idea of how long it's going to last. Can I make it? Whoops, a few drivers come from an excursion in the background there. I think a few drivers are going to be wondering, can I maybe stretch the hard tyre maybe to about sort of like 12 or 13 laps and then bolt soft on? Or if they're buried in the field, can they use the soft tyre to their advantage to cut through and gain some track position and then come in maybe about lap 6 or lap 7 and bolt on the hard tyre and go to the end? And, well, the safety car coming in to play at some point, should it rear its ugly head, is going to probably be a factor in some of that as well. So if you're a hard tyre driver and you're sitting pretty out in front, then you could potentially just come in, throw another hard tyre on and get going. But if it's in the latter half of the race, then then it becomes a real difficult call if the soft tyre is going to have a problem.
Absolutely, yeah. We're still going to see some strategy play out in this race, but it's gone from what we perceive to be a fuel strategy race. It's going to purely be down now to tyres, which is a harder one for some people to get their head around because we don't do tyre conservation races usually. It's not something that people plan for a whole lot. So this will be an interesting one to see how it plays out.
This one, yeah, will be definitely very, very interesting to see how it plays out. A couple of drivers just finishing up a couple of laps here as well. One driver just waiting to see if he can get himself back into the race. And I'm just actually looking in the live chat, a comment there from Jess Bruce as well. But yeah, when we were watching Phil Boat go around in the 046, it was about 3 cars in the back. A shot went off, and I think she's sort of akin that to a synchronized swimming performance, which is actually probably correct. I don't think there's much else you could really say about that. The only other thing that goes along with synchronized swimming in motorcar racing is synchronized spinning, which we've seen several times before, I think, as well, Rody. We've seen drivers they'll have a little bit of contact and then just do little pirouettes off down the circuit. So
absolutely.
All right, so yeah, a couple of drivers look like they've just need to get themselves organised here. So a little bit of a short hold. So Rody, I'm not sure if you're keeping an eye on the championship points as it sits right now. Whether anybody's been entering any of that, you're going to have to be my eyes here because I'm looking at about 6 different screens.
Yeah, that's why I've been fairly non-communicative over the last little bit. I'm trying to get everything updated, and alt-tabbing where I don't have an alt-tab option takes a bit more time. Mm-hmm. But I'm just sorting out the rest of it now because there has been quite a bit of a shake-up, obviously, because round 1, there's not a lot of points on offer, and we've just offered basically 50% of the points that were on offer last round, so it's going to change the order up quite a bit. Still shuffling the rest of the bottom order around, especially for some guys that didn't make the first round or were partial for the first round, But what that has thrown out there at the moment is the current order is, and perhaps a lot more like we thought we'd maybe see, Kurt Stenberg first with 430 points, Wayne Walker in second, 355, Noah Turra in third, 333, and Anthony Green still hanging on to fourth with 316, but he's got a pretty angry field chasing him, so he's got Will Devonish, who, starting from the back, thought he'd maybe get to 15th. He's up to 7th, so he's going a pretty good run. Depends how the tyres are going to play out for him in race 2, but we could see him feature a little higher. Tim Redmond in 6th, even though he had a relatively quiet season. He's had 2 top 10s, but he hasn't featured as highly as we thought he would. But it's just his consistency, I think, is really where it's at right now. Lockie Lock in 7th. Lewis Wedding, despite missing tonight, and he's not supposed to be here for the season anyway. He's a reserve driver, but he's still in 8th. Daniel Cox in 9th, and then we had a tie for 11th, but on countback it goes to Brendan Ross.
Well, that'd be 10th anyway because of how the point standing actually works. So technically it's a tie for 10th.
Technically tie for 10th, which goes back to Rossi for a 7th versus an 8th. But it's the order is very much sort of thrown up partially by not finishers and finishers, like just sorting out the bottom of it now. But yeah, it's interesting to see where some of this is all played out for drivers. And I think it's hard to tell now, just looking at it, at least how race 1 played out, whether Winton was, like we talked about with last year, whether Calder was like a fly in the almost not the right word, but very much sort of something different to what we were normally used to seeing, in the same way that Watkins was last year, or whether maybe Albert Park is the throw off round, or whether this is just where the season's going to be. It's just going to play this way. If we're in a tight, twisty circuit, something with shorter races that allows the softs, we're going to see a set of drivers perform well. And if it's something that requires strategy and hard tyre running, and something like this does, we're going to see a different set of drivers perform well. We might actually have the calendar almost decided by the format of the season over anything else.
Now, actually, you speak of the calendar as well. This is actually a reminder. It's a good opportunity to remind all the Supercars and the Development Series drivers that if you haven't voted yet, please go and make sure you've put your vote in for the track that we're going to be running for International Round. I think there's about 70 or very close to 70 drivers total between all of the series, or both series. We've got about 41 votes at the moment. There is a leader in terms of the track that has the number of votes. I'm not going to tell you which one, but we do need to get more people to vote, probably about in the next 2 or 3 weeks, so we can actually finalise that and get the track and everything sorted and ready to go for the International Round, which is round 9. So it's a fair way away. We look at the calendar for Supercars International Round is going to be August the 16th, and then obviously the week before that for the Development Series. So we have got a fair way to go, but we do need to determine the winning track and get that track sorted out so we can run it for the season. So if you haven't voted already, please go into the Discord, jump in and grab the form, and please vote.
I've also actually just sorting out the rest of the points for us in here in the hold. And still one race to go, still another race left to go for points. But the team's order hasn't changed nearly as much as I thought it would. The top 5 is still very much as it was. So SES Light still ahead of Pixel Sim Sports, but now with Luke Rosella in the field, that's going to change up a little bit now, and especially with Anthony's performance not as strong as it was at Winton. So they are starting to catch them now. Amped Up Racing is still in third, only 20 points behind Pixel, so they're doing pretty well. And it's purely, I think, helped by the fact that they were running pretty happily in 6th and 7th, as opposed to Rossi, who was down in, I think it was 18th, where he ended up finishing that first race. So that's what's kept them in touch with the Pixel cars. Wayne's was still in 4th. I think they're losing touch a little bit to the Amped Up cars, and CRE still in 5th. And they're not too far behind. From there, the single car team of Kurt Stenberg has passed a couple more teams. He was ahead of Foley and Boak, and I think he's now also got ahead of Liccardo and Smith. And for the rest of the teams, then just quickly, Beyond Racing 7th, SES Dark in 8th, PBF French Engineering in 9th, and CRE Anson now up to 10th.
There you go. There's a quick rundown on all the details. Now, apologies everybody for the lack of the live pictures. It's been a little bit of a difficult night just to try and get a couple of things sorted. I do want to apologise on behalf of the ASR crew. There is definitely a few little improvements, I think, that we've realised that need to come out of the mod to make it a little bit more stable. There's been a few drivers bailing out and having to get back into the game. So hopefully we will be able to get through this one unscathed. I was actually just doing a little check as well just to see whether or not we were going to get one driver back in for this next race, but I don't think that they are actually sitting in the Discord at the minute, so we can't wait any longer. We do have to go. And here we go. So I'll quickly roll through the grid for this one, rotate the duties a little bit, and Luke Rosella will start from pole position for this one, having pole and race 1. He'll start on pole and be there for race 2 as well. Kurt Stenberg right alongside him. What little divisive strategy has he got up his sleeve, he said, for Luke Rosella in this one, if he thinks he's got something up his sleeve? That'll be interesting to take a look at. Wayne Walker, 3rd place start for him, and alongside him, Luke Ewing. So the 2 newbies to the series starting alongside each other there. So he's got the yellow marked tyre on there as well for Luke Ewing. Noah Turra and Lockie Locks. This is the first time in a while that the two CRE amped up racing cars have been on the same row of the grid alongside each other. And it's actually not too bad a result. I think it's probably Lockie's best result of the season so far. Will Devonish in 7th, last year's champion, alongside Aidan Williams, who's debutant this year in Supercars in a full-time capacity. He did do a wildcard appearance or 2 last year. First time for full-time gig for him. With Anthony Green and Curtis Egmanis on the 5th row of the grid, 9th and 10th. Daniel Cox and Leonard Grossell, 11th and 12th. It's a big field this one, we're not even halfway through it yet. Tim Redmond and Phil Boak, who actually came from the rear of the grid in that last one and drove fairly well, get up to 14th, the only of the PBF race engineering cars in that one. Steve Burko for 15th alongside Darren Lognan. Zach Brown, 17th, and Brendan Ross, so he's got still a bit more work to do to cut his way through the field after being caught up in a lap 1 incident. Cam Rutledge and Luke Speck, 19th and 20th, and then the balance of the field we have Scott Murrell in the fill-in for Lincoln Q Racing, Alex Kiddis in 22nd, the second of the Wayne's World Motorsport Mustangs, NZ Snipes, who went along pretty quietly in that last one, but just banking the points for Beyond Racing in 23rd, Steve Warwick in 24th, and then Bailey Hall 25th. And then come the drivers that either didn't start or didn't take part in that last race. Brent Foley in 26th, Lockie Burke in 27th, and I think I'm just having a bit of a look here.
Yeah, we lost Higgins. We lost Higgins in the warm-up lap.
Yeah, and Nathan Higginson, something's happened to him in this one as well, and I'm not too sure where he is at. I think maybe he has, I'm not sure, we were already well through the formation laps. It might be a bit too late to get him back in for this one, I think. So that's a little bit of a disappointment for Higo. As we said, we've had plenty of issues tonight, and the hard part, I think, in all this equation, Roadies, we've said this over the years as well, the more times that we do end up restarting the races, a lot of the time we end up then having someone else DC that goes along with it as well. So it is a difficult situation difficult balancing act, I should say, to get right sometimes.
Absolutely, yeah, and yeah. So as something that we can look at, it is a relatively new, a new chapter, as it were, with the cars and some extra stuff to play with now. And it's unfortunate for Higo. I suppose the advantage is he can maybe take some time off and go and spend some time with Beth and enjoy the rest of his night.
Yeah, that's actually not too bad an idea, actually, right? That's a very, very good suggestion. I like that. Put your feet up, Higo. You have done quite a lot of work on this mod, and I know ASR applauds you for everything you've done, but you've definitely got a bit of free time here for this one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. It is a 27-car grid, almost a full capacity grid for this one. Just waiting on a couple of cars, I think, to get into place here, and then we'll be right to go. Right, here we go. Second race of the night, race 5 of the Melbourne 150 for the ASR Supercars Championship in season 2024. There we go. Now we've got the grid all in order. The lights will come on. And if you're Murray Walker, it's 1 light, 2 light, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. And off we go for race number 2. Newing with a fairly handy reaction, but a sluggish start in the middle. Think, oh, there's a PBF car in the fence and a tyre gone bouncing in the back of shot there. Is that Brenton Foley? Yes, it is. Brenton Foley is missing a front left tyre after some pretty heavy contact. Now, he's going to try and, don't tell me he's going to try and limp this back to the pits, Roadie.
I mean, he can try, but I think he's going to struggle. The problem is, I'm not certainly going to put it back on.
Oh, there's another car in the wall.
Well.
Yeah, there's and a safety car. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Foley's gone past the scene of an accident. And who he's got here? Oh, he's got Brendan Ross is caught up. And is that Steve Warwick as well? Yes, it is. So there's going to be an early safety car. Now, this is too early, I think, for a safety car. But what it's not too early for is the old paint doctor replay. So let's see if we can get a handle on what happened here coming down into turn 1. So we'll worry about Foley later. We'll come back and have a look at what's happened to him. But another one of these log jams at the final corner here as well. So here's Brendan Ross. What happened to him? And, it happened all in front of him. There was an absolute cluster going on. And really nowhere to go, and not a surprise that the safety car was called. I sort of struggled there, Rhodey, to work out what exactly was going on. I'll wind it back a little bit. We might even go down to have to run this into the slow-mo just to see what happened here. So is that Brown, or it's one of the, or Burke, one of the two Pixelator Elf cars lost a bit of control. There was Cox on the side there as well, and there was really nowhere for anybody else to go. So there must have been some contact a bit further ahead that has caused that bit of a problem for the opening part of this race. So that's a nasty one. That's messy.
I think there was initially contact between, I think it might have been Burko and Cox, which is what put Cox into the grass. Everybody behind has checked up in response in varying degrees, and it's what's led to the subsequent nose to tails out of the corner, because people are expecting to accelerate full speed out of there and people aren't. And yeah, that ended up, I think we ended up with probably half a dozen or close to a dozen cars involved in some form in that one. A lot of cars made it out of there, but a lot of cars also didn't. And Foley, I mean, I don't know. If Foley can somehow get a wheel reattached, he might be back in this race.
Well, here's Foley's replay. So this is what happened to Foley. So, he lost it on his own. He lost it on his own. He was too far to the right, just going off the look of things there. And if I wind that back, I don't think he had contact from another car. He was off the rear. He was in the middle of the rear of the grid there. And yep, the Pixel car behind him had gone. And yeah, he just dropped it on his own. Very un-Foley-like.
Yeah, it might just be like looking at it. I think he was one of the guys out there starting on the soft, so it wasn't for a lack of grip, but it just wasn't. Wasn't. What we are now seeing is a pretty healthy logjam in the pit lane, partially caused by the fact that the pit lane gets wider halfway down. Williams actually.
Well, here comes Foley. I can see
Foley.
I can see Foley trying to get to his box. So let's see if they'll actually they'll put a wheel on that car or not. We'll soon find out. Brendan Ross is down the order.
I think they are.
I think they have actually. Yes. So that's a good decision to limp it back to the pits.
I will say, I think this is the first time I've seen it done in a mod in AMS ever. But look, credit if there was a decision somewhere in the back of the line, because I know I've done plenty of ARW races where I've knocked tyres off way in the past, and not being able to get the car back on a four wheels. So look, it makes sense. We saw guys in supercars limping. I think it was Cam Waters at Bathurst limping it back around with three wheels on his wagon and managed to get a tyre put back on. So
Brendan Ross, drive-through penalty for Rossi, and drive-through penalty potentially as well there. Well, that might be a post-race penalty there for Darren Loughnane for crossing the blend line on the pit exit. That was got a little bit too far out there. But yeah, the PBF number 074 has definitely got it's got some damage to be repaired there as well, but it's also got a new front wheel on it, which is good. Now, everybody that was in the pits was caught up in that accident. So we've got the race leader's been picked up out of turn 12, which is Rosella. Everybody that was in the pits that lap. So I was looking here. So I think Steve Warwick was in there, I'm pretty sure. I saw Aidan Williams, Scott Murrell, Lockie Burke, Luke Speck, Darren Loughnane, Daniel Cox, Brendan Ross and Zach Brown. Actually, Brent Foley is still in the lane, or is transiting the lane, I think, if from what I understand. Is he? No, he's still stationary, so still a fair old chunk of repairs going on for the 074. But he'll have to get out pretty quickly because the leaders are coming around, or he's going to go a lap down. And if he doesn't get moving in the next 5 or 6 seconds, he will go a lap down. But at least he's going to be out there, and he'll rely on another safety car to get his lap back here. Yeah, he's going to be freight trained here at the moment on the front straight. So all of those that were in the pits are currently 18th on back in the running order. Actually, I think there's a bit more going on with Foley at the minute here. I can actually see a fair old chunk of smoke coming out of that car, Roadie. So I'm wondering if something's not quite happy with the 074 sitting in there. There's almost looks like a fire. Yep, and there we go. I was about to say, almost looked like a firebomb had gone off in that car. And
so I think what's happened there, I'm assuming it actually was. It looked like he wasn't in the box when he finally stopped. So I think what's happened there is similar thing to what we saw many years ago, actually it is kind of many at this point. We've been racing for that long. 2020 at Calder Park, where 3 of the 4, actually I went to 2019, where 3 of the 4 PBF cars ended up dying off of the old solid bollards through the chicane.
Oh, yes.
Foley's death wasn't through damage, it was because, well, it was through damage, but the damage impacted the engine cooling, which then cooked itself off in pit lane when it was trying to repair the rest of the car. I imagine that's probably something similar has happened again here, where the cooling's been buggered, and so the engine's cooked itself off while it's been repairing everything else, and so he's gone to essentially. It almost looks like he's had a Van Gisbergen 2013 Bathurst, where he's dropped the car and it's jolted, and then it just hasn't fired again, which it gives these issues with starter as opposed to. Yeah, okay, so engine on the pits is fully confirmed, and to confirm what happened on the track, his force feedback died off the start line, and with how twitchy some of these cars are made at the start, doing that with no force feedback is a really delicate art, and even then you're not quite getting there.
So that's right. So that was unfortunately our first retirement for this one. We're looking through the field at the minute just to see where everyone's positioned. So there's a few drivers that have actually made some healthy gains after that little melee at the opening couple of corners. So NZ Snipes, he's one of them. He's up 9 spots from where he started that last race, or finished that last race rather, so it's a good result for him. The same person, same amount of positions rather, for Bailey Hall, 9 places for him. So they've been some big beneficiaries of the safety car and the subsequent accidents happening there as well. There's a few other drivers in there as well that have, I think Zach Brown's down 9, Brendan Ross down 7, Daniel Cox, he's the big loser out of that one, down 13, so he was caught front and centre in that incident, so he had to tour the lane, so he's in 24th. Darren Loughlin's down 7, Lockie Burke, he's one that's up 7 spots, so he started off the rear, because remember he did qualifying, but he didn't make the start for race 1, his internet died, so he's back out there and actually managed to, that's a good chunk of a gain for him.
I will jump in just quickly to say we're about to go green again.
Alrighty, so there we go. You're absolutely right. The safety car has peeled off, so race leader has control of the field here. Have a look at this. We knew Kurt Stenberg said he had something for Luke Rosella, and I didn't think it'd be being right up his chuff coming down the front straightaway here, but it is the leader's prerogative to go when they decide to go. Anywhere between the green flag and the control line. He's waiting, he's leaving this till probably the last possible minute, and gone. There you go. It's about grid row number 5 when he hit the go button, and a good restart actually for everybody in the field. Good proper restart there as well. Cars go flying off the inside of the turn 1 curb, and now they head down towards 3 and 4. So race leaders already starting to duke it out up front here. Stenberg on the offensive, making Rosella take the defensive line here into turn number 3, and he's got a little bit of room there. Can't move all the way over now because Stenberg filled that void pretty quickly, but this might be the opportunity for Stenberg to strike at the restart here with the tyres very much in a different operating window compared to what they were a couple of at the beginning of lap 1, sorry.
Yes, much better setup now, and I suppose having the 2 or 3 laps under safety car has sort of helped Stenberg, because his big issue has been tyre performance in the early phase of the tyre. He's been able to work through that under safety car and very much set himself up now. I did notice both of the two leaders and much of the field saving fuel, so they've got bigger strategy plans at the back end of this race. But crucial, I think, for Kurt, it's put him through his initial tyre window phase, and now he's looking at a much better position than he would have been trying to do this on lap 1. Now that he is on lap 4, and yeah, he's still keeping with Luke Rosella.
Certainly is. The field streams through turn 11 there. Back to the lead of the race we go. So over and under, almost a switcheroo treatment there on the downside of turn 13. And here we go, up the inside. Luke Rosella has to give the room to Kurt Stenberg at turn 14. And if they're both are all at the absolute limit there, and through goes the anti-coal number 47 to the lead of the race. Now, can he kick away? That is the next question. Can he kick away? Because this next couple of pair are starting to come quite quickly for them. Wayne Walker is leading out for the number 26 here of Noah Turra, and they're not too far behind. Fastest lap of the race for Stenberg, 58.6. Actually, track and Rosella back through, but track strike for Luke Rosella last time out as well. So picked up his first track violation, but the next couple in Walker and Turra are also starting to mix it up. And I noticed in the background as well, there's been a change of position between the 2 team cars. So Devonish picked up a couple of spots on that lap, but McManus having none of it, sending it down the inside at 3 and holds that position at 4 with a bit of a slide job on the exit of 4.
Yeah, this one will play interesting because Igmanus is the first one in the field, at least from my checks earlier, running still out there on the soft tyre. So I'm not sure what his planning is, whether it's a soft stop or probably, I don't know, 2 stops somewhere in there, but he didn't come in as the first stop, so I don't know, I don't know what he's thinking. But the point is, he should be faster at this phase of the race than Will, so it's going to hurt probably the pair of them if Will passes and stays ahead of Turmo. So Turmo's job right now is to get ahead of Will, which he's done, and then try and pull Will up the field somewhat with some slipstream.
Yes,
but Igmanus is going to be in the lane probably in the next 6 or 7 laps.
Yep, so this is what I was saying. There's a few drivers are probably going to pursue this soft, hard strategy, or, you know, just see and or suck it and see strategy, I think is probably the right terminology for it, Rody, and just see how it actually goes. Here you go, look at closing in on it. So Devonish with a good slipstream, but just not enough time to make that pass happen. But you are right, 2 different strategies in play here between the 2 team cars, but I like this, Rody. This is it's a good split strategy. You're going to bring one car in before the other. You're not going to have them tripping over each other in pit lane. You're not going to disadvantage one car by having them go a lap longer on tyres that they really shouldn't go, you know, longer on, and then risk them being undercut by a car behind. Because Phil Boak, he's the quiet achiever in this one, isn't he? Look, he's right up behind Devonish, so that's up to 7th place for Phil Boak at the moment. And what's he done? He's up 7 spots since the start of the race.
Yeah, so I will say full credit to Boakey and giving him where it's deserved. He has done a good job getting up this far, but he is the 2nd car in the train right now on soft tyres, so that's contributing to him being up where he is. I think Grossel is on softs as well up there as well. But actually just Will Devonish is finally getting through on Turmo, so we're just going to see how that plays out, whether that means the softs are already starting to fall off, which they only had 4 laps of hard running. I'd be very surprised if that was the case. But yeah, he's another one in the field out there on the softs, which has given him sort of an early showing. Whether that plays or how that plays into the back end of the race, we don't know yet. But yeah, I think it's sort of a false dawn for some of the guys up here in the top 10 at the moment, is that they're up here because they're on the softs. Turmo near Tokyo Drift,
Here comes Boak.
Formula Drift through that corner there, and Boak's finally going to put a move on, as well as Grossel in the background as well. Yeah, I think that's what we're seeing. A lot of these guys in the back end of the top 10 are there on soft pace. I'm not sure what that's going to mean for them in 10 laps time.
No, that's right. Well, and speaking of the top 10, Tim Redmond's the last car inside the 10. He's on soft tyre as well. He's on the white sidewall tyre. So expect him in the next couple of laps as well. As I said, Rody, I sort of predicted probably 8 laps was probably the absolute maximum based on the performance of the tyre in race number 1. You know, you really started to take some pain around lap 8, so you wouldn't want to go too much beyond that point. But they've only done, you know, 3 or 4 laps worth of hard running on the soft tyre at this point. So, and, you know, probably 8 laps was total on the board is probably a good return, I would say. You've got a little bit more time to really abuse this tyre and then jump into the lane and start putting on the hard tyre. But if you get another safety car now, you're in the lane straight away. The hard tyre runners, who's the first of the hard tyre runners outside of the leading couple of cars? Like who's seriously the next one? Will Devonish. So Will Devonish in 5th place at the moment. He's really the one we're going to be interested in for the flip side of the strategy. So there he is, up in 5th place, just ahead of Boak. So yeah, from the flip side strategy point of view, what he does on the other side when it comes to his pit stop, that's if he decides to make one, will sort of be the benchmark as to what the leaders are probably going to do as well. Complete inverse to what the sister car is in Igmanus. So Luke Newing, he dropped, he was a bit of an unfortunate casualty, I think, there of whatever went on at the restart. So he's on the hard tyre as well. He started in 4th place, already down to 11th, but again, whether or not the consistency for him is going to be there, and whether he's going to come back up to the level of the water as well, as everybody ahead starts to take that pain and have to go to the hard tyre in a couple of laps' time. And then behind him is Anthony Green. So again, a couple of quiet achievers in this one, and a couple of people that have sort of been able to just try and scratch our heads a little bit and wonder what's going on with them. There's all sorts of different strategies in this one. Alex Kiddis, he's on the soft tyre, giving Bailey Hall a bit of a hard time here as well. So he's another one we're expecting to stop in the next few laps or so. He's got a really good run coming out of turn 12. He'll be straight down the inside here at 13 and gets it stopped. And good job, good pass.
Yeah, a little bit of contact, but left Bailey plenty of room on the outside. Bailey's going to
not done yet,
swing it out again. It's here, but he's stuck in it, and he's now got the run to the inside. The second corner, a little bit of contact.
Yeah, he moved over a bit too far there, I think, as well. Oh, and then moved the other way a bit too far as well. He got 2 cars in 2 corners. So that's what's the old adage? Ready? You must leave the space.
You must always leave the space.
You must always leave the space.
So yeah, he's forming his own little train right now with the cars behind that. So Williams is trying to put it back through down the inside of 1, but same problem there, the outside of 2. But
rear disagreed with all there. Pressed the loud pedal a little bit too much, and the rear of the car wagged the tail of the dog coming out of turn number 2, and very lucky not to lose a spot there. But that's now checked this pack up. So Williams has gone through ahead of Hall, and then you got Cam Rutledge is in behind Alex Kiddis, and then Burko and Luke Speck. So big angry 6-car train here, just waiting to boil over. And then in the background there, I think that's Lockie Burke who's trying to catch up to this group. Oh, and Hall slow off of turn 6 as well, now through 7 and 8, and there goes the mirror cover. And he's fighting at the moment. He is on the hard tyre and disagrees with it, and a little bit of elbows out there. Tour of the infield, and that was just waiting to happen.
It was, yeah, very much sort of cork in the bottle, and a lot of guys keen to try and get past him, especially those that are on the soft tyre trying to make the most out of their stint of tyre, because they're probably, well, if the hards were struggling to make 10 laps, there was a safety car early in this race, probably still only a couple of laps off seeing soft tyres winning based on the old soft hard.
Speaking of that, Brody, I haven't seen anyone come into the lane yet, but I just noticed that Kurt Stenberg had conceded second place to Wayne Walker, so that wasn't in the script. Stenberg was harassing the back of Rosella a little bit earlier. I'm just waiting to see the lap time this time around to see where that time has gone. And it must have been on the lap prior, because Walker has done a 56.5, and Stenberg's done a 58.8, so it must have been on this lap actually, on the previous lap, sorry, I apologise. There's been a big difference in Sector 1 there. Will Devonish's fastest lap of the race too, on the hard tyre, 55.9.
I was going to say, I went back to have a look, and he was all by himself. He's just broken a bit too late and gone deep through that section. They just went through what is that, turn 3, turn 4, that right-hander.
And the pain's starting to be felt here. Oops, safety car. Well, I was about to say, the pain was starting to be felt by a few of the soft car drivers, because Redmond had just gone off the road at turn 3, and a safety car ensues. And I'm wondering, is this Igmanis? No, Igmanis is in the lane.
I think Brown is off at... actually, contact between Brown and Warwick at turn 1.
All right, so Brown and Steve Warwick at turn 1. They're the ones we're going to be interested in having a look at on our Paint Doctor replay. So second safety car of the night. And I think, was this a failed passing attempt? Or what happened here? Oh, so close. Just a little bit of clumsy contact. And that'll be why, because they're now in the middle of the road, and not much Steve can do. He had to get out of the way there, and safety car ensues. So pit lane is exactly that. Pit lane is about to become a very busy place, I think. So now the leader's going to have a clear run here, I think. Oh no, he goes around. So Luke Rosella on the hard tyre. I reckon he thinks that he can make this. And with 2 safety cars, I actually think that this might benefit some of the hard tyre drivers that were gambling on that sort of strategy.
So Walker's continued around.
Stenberg in.
Both in. Tara's in. Locks continued. Newman's continued. Redmond's in. Grossel's in. Will's in.
If you're a soft car driver, you are in. That's the end of the game here. If you do not pit this lap on soft tyre, you are done for. You have to come in and you have to change. Whoops! And that's the pitfall of the narrow pit lane there, because Boat was following right behind Stenberg thinking, oh, this is just the way the path goes. Nope, it goes to the left. So he had to pull out from behind the 47 quite quickly. So who have we got in the lane there? If I read it top to bottom, as they come in, we've got Boak, Tara, Redmond, Grossel, Devonish, Williams, Burko, Stenberg, Rutledge, Hall, Snipes, Cox, Murrell, and then the other one there's Foley, who's a DNF. And so there's pretty much everyone from 11th on back is in the lane at the moment. There's a fair bit going on in pit lane. Igmanis is going around. Actually, he was already in the lane. So this will now be interesting for me because he was in the lane when the safety car was called. What is he going to gain out of this? Because Stenberg's leaving the lane, 13th place. And Igmanis is going to round a few people up here. It's going to be touch and go. Redmond's going to just beat him out. And, oh, he gets Devonish. So he actually leapfrogs Devonish in the queue there. And Igmanis is on the soft. So that's an interesting call. He's gone to the soft tyre. Soft strategy for the 51.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's out of the picture for what that's relying on is a long safety car. That's relying on a 3 or 4 lap safety car, I think, because otherwise you're going to be very questionable. Just purely based off what the guys are saying about hards for 10 laps, you're going to be pretty questionable from there. You're going to do 9 laps of running. You're going to have probably at least another lap or 2 under safety car. You really want as many as you can get though for those softs to really have a comfortable window to work with, but. It might be the call. I don't know. Those guys out there on hards, yeah, it's a safety car. So the head of that queue now is
you've made your bed. You've got a lie in it now. Basically, that's what this is. So top 9 or 10 drivers. So the one in this element of the equation that I don't think fits, or as they said in Sesame Street, one of these things is not like the other, is Alex Kiddis, who is in 8th place. I don't think he stopped, and he was a soft tyre runner, so he's going to plummet down the order at some point. He will have to stop.
I was just looking at the field. Yeah, Kiddis is still out there on softs, and I don't think he's even if he stopped in the first stop, he's still going to be questionable with tyres now. Yeah. So I think he's either going to be in the next lap or 2, or I really don't know. I mean, we had. We had Adam Kerrison try running the softs in race 2 in Dev last week, but Dev uses a lot less tyre, the race is shorter, and Super 3 is a lot slower than Supercars. So, yeah, he's got to be in the next lap or 2, Kiddis. The only thing I could perhaps say is, I don't know, he was going to leave space for Walker, but no, because neither of the cars are pitted.
No, that's right.
Within a couple of double stacks, and it may be just the way things are played out, I saw the 2 and some cars double stack. That was probably the least pain they could have, and I think I saw an accident. What I assume was an accident double stack between Burko and Hayden Williams, who are sharing a pit boom, but obviously aren't the same team. So that one they couldn't really organise. It was the way it played out. But yeah, that's the only reason you could justify it. But yeah, he's going to have maybe a lap or 2 where the softs are going to kick back in, and then you can be straight into basically the end of the tyre life straight away.
Yeah,
so he's going to struggle, and if he's not in the first lap that we go green, he's going to plummet.
Yeah, no, you're right. So realistically, I'm just having a bit of a look through the field here, just to see if I can see what tyres everybody is on, just to get a rough idea here of where we stand. So working on down the field, so top 7 all hards. Kiddis in 8th is on the soft tyre, but we know he has not stopped, so he's got a bit of work to do there. 9th place man in Darren Lockman on a hard. Phil Boak came in and stopped, and he is on the soft as well, so he's really the benchmark now of how the soft tyre performance can go. Leonard Grossel in 11th, he's on the soft. Stenberg on the hard in 12th. Ross up to 13th, he's on the hard tyre. Redmond has gone the soft tyre as well, 14th, so I like it, trying something a little bit different from a few drivers. Igmanis on the soft, Devonish on the soft, so he was on the hard, so we expected he was going to go to the soft. He's probably had to go to it a little bit earlier than he would have liked because he started on the hard tyre. Aidan Williams on the hard, Noah Tara on soft, Cam Rutledge on soft, Bailey Hall, NZ Snipes, Steve Burko, Zach Brown, who we got there? We've got Daniel Cox and Scott Murrell all on soft, and Steve Warwick on the hard. So there's a hell of a mix, I'd say, going on here at the moment, Rhodey. There's the top 7 have made their bed. They've got to go at it from here. If they pit, they are gone pretty much. That's how this one works. But the real first driver on the soft tyre that we're going to see if they can make this work is Phil Boak, and then after him going to be Tim Redmond in 14th. So the drivers in 10th and 14th are the ones to watch out for how far they can get and if they can make the soft tyre last.
All right, and actually that's answered one of the questions. We are going around again, which helps those guys on softs, and also what helps, I wouldn't say helps the field, but it definitely
Kiddis and Ross.
smooths out is that Kiddis is in.
Yes,
Ross in actually surprised by as well, but the fact that Ross and Brown are both in probably means it's on one of their strategy cars. If it was an A, it might not mean B, but definitely is something within their playbook for both of the, both of the Pixel, sorry, not both of, sorry, there is Rosella out there as well. The other 2 Pixel cars are in. So
Yeah.
I think that was very much a call from the strategy. There wasn't like a last minute thing. It was basically going to be a, look, we'll go for this if the safety car stays out. We'll go for this if the safety car continues. We'll go for this if the safety car stays out. We'll go for this if the safety car comes in.
Yeah.
I think what they're probably doing, if they're both on softs, is they're going to be getting new softs.
Yeah, that's right. I can't remember if I called Ross being on a soft or a hard, and same with Brown.
I think Ross was still on a hard, buried in a 13th.
Yeah, he was 13th. Yeah, so he's on the soft now. He's on the soft now.
Yeah, he was. I think he was in trouble early. He was way off the back of the field. So
Kiddis. That's the cardinal
Yep.
sin. That is a big cardinal sin. Cut the blend line. That will be a penalty as well. That is a big no-no. It was in the driver's briefing notes, and yep, that is a penalty every day of the week. He's put a new soft tyre on. Brendan Ross, when we have a look at Rossi on the soft and Zach Brown on the soft as well. So they all went to the soft, and this will just now be about using, they're going to absolutely abuse this tyre. They are going to catch up the back of the field. Worst case scenario, there is, what we got, 7 laps remaining if it goes green this time around. So back to the head of the train here. So this leaves Rosella and Walker at the front of the field. Both have not stopped, both on the hard tyre. Now this is what we were waiting for, Rhodey. We were waiting to see how these two would go racing against each other. I still think Rosella has a little bit of the edge over Walker at the moment. Granted, the tyre wear is going to be something that I think Luke probably will handle a little bit better, having spent a few more seasons in ASR than the man aboard the number 217 Mustang. So I expect that Rosella will be will probably be able to move away here, but in a brand new tyre situation, we were kind of looking forward to seeing what Walker could have in store for Rosella on the odd occasion. But well, we've got it. It's just not the ideal scenario we wanted for this one. But are we going green this time around? That's the next question. Rosella's not checking the field, so I think we have got another lap.
I would say so. Yeah,
Yep.
we're going to have to. This one, he's basically mirror driving. No, not mirror driving. He's basically he's
Safety
tailgating
cars,
safety car. Safety cars doing the mirror driving. He's tailgating the safety car. So yeah, we're still probably trying to give it a bit of hurry up. So we're going to have at least still another lap. So yeah, all this does, well, it mixed blessing. It plays in the hand of the soft runners, but too much longer, and it goes against the soft runners because it gives them less laps to be able to take advantage of their tyre superiority.
And what do you think's going on in pit lane land? The other side, couple of cars, yeah, Pixel, of a double variety, coming in again, and yeah, putting on some softer tyres, or a new set of softer tyres as well. So, well, they've got nothing to lose. They're down the back of the field. So this is
exactly.
what we say this all the time, don't we?
And this is the same thing we see from Pixel and going back to Loose Sim Sport, I suppose, and their predecessing teams. Sort of stuff we used to seeing from them. Not so much for tyres. We used to seeing this in a fuel race where they'll just come in. Bathurst is a great example. They'll come in every lap of Bathurst and the safety car stays out and just pick up more fuel and pick up more fuel and pick up more fuel, so that they're always starting their race on as close to a full tank as possible. Same thing here. They're starting their stint. Same thing here. They want to start their stint on the freshest possible soft tyres, and once they're already back at the train, all they're losing is a little bit of tyre life to catch the train, but they're not losing any positions once they're already back there. So they've got an advantage over the guys, so one person I'll get through very quickly is Steve Warwick, who's the ultimate insurance policy of the softs don't last because he's the last runner on hards. But they're not really losing too much over the rest of the field, and they're actually gaining a little bit in the process.
No, you're right. Just cycling through a couple of onboards here, just having a bit of a look at a couple of the drivers going at work here. We were on board with Luke Speck. We're on board now with Cam Rutledge. We've got our new camera for this year as well. We're on board with Phil Boak here as well. And I love this camera, Rody. The onboard camera looking back at the driver. This is a new one for 2024. And I actually like the fact that the helmet's actually rolling around as the driver's doing whatever they're doing. So great little initiative there, I think, from the ASR just to put that one together. As there are definitely a few drivers in the field here that just getting themselves, I guess, ready to go. Here we're up around the backside of the lake. And hopefully not too far away from going back to racing. I'm just noticing on the dashboard of the Cox and Rutledge cars, they've still got the track map up of Winton from last round. Boys, this is Albert Park. We're about 300 kilometres south of that track now, so I think you probably need to put that one away.
Yeah, I think the issue is that we don't offer quite enough alternates yet for you to have up-to-date dashboards for each round. I mean, it's something perhaps like maybe it's something for RF2 where it's a thing that's sort of series implemented rather than driver implemented. But yeah, for the moment, it's yeah, they're gonna probably see an updated one in 4 or 5 rounds time.
Certainly will. All right, here we go. Back to green flag running. It's a 6-lap club sprint. This is how we do things in ASR. So 2 safety car periods gives way to a very short burst. Big mix of tyre strategies in this one. Hards at the front end of the field for the first 6 or 7 cars. Softs in the middle. There's a few quick cars in there as well. This one is going to be chaotic over the next 6 laps. So Rosella's going to take them all the way down here to the start-finish line, and away we go for the sprint. There's a penalty there to be cleared, but apart from that, good restart again from everybody there in the field. And I can see there Burke looking down the inside of Anthony Green back in the shot. And there's a couple of cars sort of buried in the pack here as Tara's trying to get through. A couple of drivers on the soft tyre really need to make headway while they've got time to do so here, Rody.
Yeah, Logan's causing a big log jam with the cars behind him, trying to, oh, Jesus, 2 of them on the inside of Boak. And, well, I think Boak caught that, but still lost a ton of spots there through the combined work of, in this one at the end turn, the combined work of Stenberg and Logman there. But yeah, it's young for young and old. Basically, we're seeing race 1 again.
Yeah, here we go. So Speck and is now got Kurt Stenberg for company. So Stenberg up to position 7. So goes through at turn number 6, and right in front of him, this next little battle, Lockie Burke and Anthony Green. Now these guys didn't stop. They are on older tyres. They are on worn rubber, but it is the hard tyre, and then Stenberg right behind them on the hard tyre as well. But he's going to be absolutely pushing that tyre to its limit, having come in and stopped during the safety car period. Have a look at this logjam. It's actually, who's actually leading this next queue of cars? It's Will Devish. Oh, big lock-up for someone in front. Couldn't see who it was. It was, might have been Luke Speck, but then there's this massive train behind Will Devonish at the moment. He's trying to streak away here. He's on the soft tyre. So too Redmond. So they've cleared this battle group. Phil Boak was the one that I was interested in seeing because I think he come in and put the soft tyre on, and there's Gross all around in the background. But Boak's gone backwards at the start here, whereas the likes of Devonish and Redmond have made the soft tyre work. They are clearing cars. Here we go, round the outside here for Devonish at the second to last corner. Good amount of grip. Check, the amount of grip is phenomenal from the older tyre to the newer tyre.
I've just noticed as well, looking in the back of the train, something you have to grab when you get a second nether. Termo's now got a stop go that needs clearing from that restart.
Yes.
But he's getting a good little battle on now with Aidan Williams as well on the run down into turn 1. And yeah, the soft tyre, or Bailey Hall from a long way back, and he's just getting way off the track in the process.
Yep, that's on the opposite camera while we're watching Termo, who's now going in a big tank slapper, and he's hit the wall. He's going to come back on the track. How on earth did the field avoid that one?
I don't know.
I don't know either. And Termo facing the wrong way, and we'll have to get that one going. We'll have a time for the replay of that one. Go back up to the head of the queue here. Green with a big sideways moment off of turn 5, and that'll give Devonish 6th place, moving up the order there as well. And the next target for him will be Kurt Stenberg. So this will be an interesting hard tyre versus soft tyre battle.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to shake things up a bit with how things are playing out. Just trying to get myself back up to the front of the field. But yeah, Newing's very much a fish out of water as things are sitting right now in that battle with Stenberg. They've probably run each other at points across the season, but across their sim racing careers. But it's the first time they've both been on the grid together in ASR. And Newing, with not a lot of experience, is still giving it a real red-hot go, and actually they're both catching up now to Lockie Lock as well, who's going to be starting to feel that pressure.
Yep, Lockie Lock's definitely going to start to feel some of the pressure. He's almost going to be like a bit of a fish out of water as well here too, Rhodey, because I don't expect that he would have been up this high in the running order for some time, so he's got a little bit of inexperience in this matter, but you've got Newing behind him. Got Stenberg gnawing away on the back of the AC Delco car right now. He has going to have his hands full with a former two-time series champion coming down here into turn number 1. And through goes Stenberg, gets that job done. So Stenberg up to 4th, and Devonish, what was he doing on that last lap? I'm just having a look at the last lap times, 56.0, and he was the quickest out of the 3 cars ahead of him, but Rosella last time out broke the set a new lap record for the race, 55, new fastest lap brother, 55.3. So he's definitely got pace to burn with the worn tyre at the moment, as we see Igmanis coming to the lane after that incident. I reckon he's probably got either some damage or a flat front tyre there, Rhodey.
Yeah, either that or just to make sure he does stop, because he did have that stop go that needed clearing.
Yeah, it has been cleared.
That has been cleared.
Yeah, that has been cleared. So that's all done. So Darren Loughnane is the last car, his first car outside the top 10. Noah Tara trying to come through the field on the soft tyres for him. And this will be down the inside of turn 9 here. Clean pass there, got to leave a bit of room. These cars are a bit understeering. That's forced locking up. Oh, Ross was trying to go the long way around there, and there was definitely no way that was going to happen off the corner, but that opened it up for Zach Brown, who got the inside line. Clip of the wall for a couple of cars there, heading into 11. And if Ross can get the run out of turn 12 here, and then down the chute to 13, he'll be in a good position to go to the inside. Tyre advantage will always win out down here, not so much on, or not exactly. Oh, massive lockups, 3 cars locking up, big 4 cars locking up, big compression lockups from a lot of drivers. What on earth was going on there?
I think a bit of a lockup, but also wheel-to-wheel contact in the braking zone. I think we're talking about the wider track of the cars. I think that perhaps got Ross and Loughnane unstuck. Separate accidents also further behind of people going deep or counting others. I think it's a combination of where the tyres are at and people just getting maybe a little bit desperate at this end of the race.
Yeah, it was almost like synchronised skidding, not synchronised spinning coming down there. There was 1 car locked up, 2 cars locked up. Oh, there's a car that's smoking there as well. I'm just looking on the broadcast as well. I think it's Phil Boak. Yeah, there's a very sick sounding and very sick looking 046 as well, with the trail of smoke coming out of the rear of that car. It's not too far away from expiring. Maybe it's got a bit of damage that is picked up somewhere that's affecting the cooling, similar to the sister car that was in the wars at the start of the race. So can he limp it home and pick up a handful of points? Oh, it's squirming under brakes there going into 3, but it's still got some good pace, but for how much longer?
Yeah, I've started to smoke now, and if it's cooling related, I don't think he's going to make the next 2 laps. He's doing what he can to keep the speed up, keep the air flowing through it, but we'll see how that one goes. But most in all that as well, Kiddis is out as well. I went back and had a look. He completely missed the brakes at turn 1, so I'm not sure whether he had a game issue or something, but he's out of that race as well. And yeah, we're not far off the back end of it now, just slowing up to the field. And Ross is still, actually Ross has fallen off a little bit actually and all that. He's now back behind.
Yep. Hall. Yeah, he's back behind Hall. Just seen Boak's gone off the circuit as well down at turn 9. But this is the one that we're interested in now, the last battle for 3rd place. So Rosella's got a healthy margin to Wayne Walker at the moment. But Stenberg and Devonish, the last couple of series champions from 2023 and 2022, are going to go at it here. Now, this is a big tyre discrepancy here. Stenberg on the hard, Devonish on the soft, but how much has he taken out of that soft tyre, and has he got anything for Kurt? And then Locker's got to fend off Luke Newing at the back there as well. So 2 laps to run First and second all but secured at the moment, but third place not done and dusted just yet. What were the lap times last time around? Track violation for Stenberg, so we don't have a read on that time. 56.3 for Devonish, so he's on the same pace as Wayne Walker, that's in second place on the hard tyre, running on a soft. So that just gives you an idea of, you know, the length, the longevity of the hard tyre and how crucial it's been for some drivers. Oh, that might be a track cut there for Stenberg. He got too much at turn number 5 and had a big sideways moment at 6, but Devonish is not close enough to close that down.
Yeah, very much. Devonish not far enough on the side, so Stenberg sort of wiped the nose across, or wiped the back of the 47 across the nose of the 15 as he's turned in there. But yeah, he's very much still in it, Stenberg. He might not have the tyre advantage right now, but he's going to have it if he can keep Will busy. And he's only got a lap and a bit left to go to keep him back there.
No, certainly right. So the car that I look at and I say to myself, that's Jack Smith. It comes down to the thing, oh, big sideways moment for Devonish too. He's going to lose the momentum coming out of turn 12. And momentum is crucial in this generation of cars because the aero imbalance is so much different compared to the Gen 2 predecessors, and now that tyre is starting to slide around a little bit, so I think Devonish has probably taken a bit too much out of it, and he's going to have to settle for 4th in this one, barring a mistake from Stenberg, because he was right under the rear wing of that car a lap ago at this point in time on the track, and he's just started to overdrive the car just a little bit too much as we get the white flag. 1 to go here at Albert Park.
Yeah, so comfortable lead there for Luke Rosella. Just noticed as well, Boak is finally out as well, so the engine did actually expire on that car. He wasn't able to make it quite back to the checkered flag. But Rosella with a comfortable lead over Walker, as we mentioned, both those set in stone as things are looking right now. Devonish, I think his tyres are starting to go the other way. He's not quite pulling in on Stenberg the same way he was the previous lap.
No, certainly not. Just having a quick saunter through the field and seeing what's happening here. So Green has got his hands full with a rampaging Zach Brown at the moment. So again, another tyre discrepancy war between two different marks going on here down at turn number 3. And Green desperate to get back into the top 10. Luke Speck is just tantalisingly about 100 metres or so up the road, but the tyres have been on some of these cars for quite some time now, and a few drivers just a little bit inexperienced with how to make them last the distance. And Green, one of those that didn't stop on the safety car. Probably wasn't a bad decision, but just hasn't been able to get the pace out of the car from the restart. Race lead up under the Paint Doctor Bridge for the last time, and on to turn 13. So been a perfect weekend for Luke Rosella. He's led all the laps. He's had both the poles and won one race, and he's about to double his tally. Maximum points for car number 55, 300 for the weekend. And your 2021 series champion is your race and round winner here at Albert Park.
Nice work by Luke in the end. Very comfortable, very commanding when doing what he needed to, when it mattered. Wayne Walker comes home 4 seconds, so that's that's an important little one for him to get over Kurt Stenberg, who does hold on to 3rd ahead of Will Devonish, who I think the tyres might have given out right at the end there for him.
Stenberg turned his personal best lap on that last lap as well, 55.7. On the last lap of the race, so he definitely had a little something in reserve, and I think Will probably overdrove the tyres a bit too much at the end there, but nonetheless up from 7th to 4th, good chunk of points. And Lockie Lock, good result for him too, 5th place, holding off a very fast newcomer in Luke Newing. And as you said, Rody, if they're not snapping at his heels after this one, I don't know who will be snapping at his heels if they need another drive, because he has got a couple more appearances that he'd like to make this year. Lockie Burke, 21 spots gained, rear of grid effectively to 7th place. A good drive for Burke there, and good points for Pixelated Elf Autosport. Redmond, who put the soft tyre on when the safety car came out, finishing in 8th. Noah Turra 9th, and Luke Speck. Actually, top 10 for Speck, up 10 spots. So as a substitute, I think that's been a pretty handy choice for Ryan Smith there to put him aboard car number 60. and he's repaid him with a 10th place. So that is a good, solid. Is this? I can't remember. Is this? This isn't Speck's debut in Supercars. I think he did a round or two last year.
I think he might have filled in last year. Yeah, it's
Yes.
definitely been the first time we've seen him in a while though.
Yeah, so good job for Luke Speck, and actually in the SES Dark entry ahead of Anthony Green in the SES Light and Zach Brown in 12th there. So good result for those guys as well. It's good points for Pixelated Elf. They only had one. Actually, I don't think they even had one car at the last round. If I can't remember off the top of my head.
I don't think they did. No,
they did. So they're finally on the board in season 2024. Brett and Ross, so Cox and Ross were the next couple from Aidan Williams, Rutledge, Grossel and Burko, and then Snipes and Darren Logden finished up the 20, and then the last of the classified finishes, Bailey Hall and Scott Murrell, and then Egmanis went down a lap when he came in to take service after that accident, a couple of laps from home. And then the non-finishers, both with the expired engine, Steve Warwick. We didn't see Steve Warwick and what the cause of his retirement was after that one. So I'm not too sure what's happened there for him. And Alex Kidd, as you mentioned, went straight off the road, and Foley was out very, very early after that really, weird incident where he just plummeted into that pit straight wall, lost the front tyre, got it replaced, but the car very much overheated, and then said, no, I stick a fork in me, I'm done.
Yeah, it's speaking biasedly for a moment, it's not been a good. I think the last time we had a weekend go this bad for PBF, it was Calder Park in 2020. We only ended up with one finisher in their second race, so I think Albert Park's on new bogey track.
I think so. Well, turned out to be quite a chaotic couple of races with that one. So the new formats this year, a lot of people haven't really adapted to them, I don't think, as well as some others have. So that's going to take a little bit of getting used to, I think, in season 2024. Now, I'm just having a look at the calendar. There are a couple more races where we do have this format. Hidden Valley, round 6 is the next one of those. Then Sydney Motorsport Park is the other one. So there's only 3 of them this year, and we've got a little bit of a wait until the next one of those formats comes to be. The next round of the championship, coincidentally, is going to be one of the formats from last year, which we have a top 10 shootout and we have 2 races. So that will be a little bit more meaningful for a couple of drivers here, a bit more familiar with how things go on. And Rody, we've got 2 of our top 3, or now we have 3 of our top 3 with us. Do you want to go in the reverse order again, or do you want to pick a different order this time around?
We might go top down this time around. So Luke Rosella mentioned when you came in for race number 1, starting off with a 100% appearance win record. You've kept that intact with a win again in race number 2. You definitely had it where it mattered.
Yeah, a bit of a weird one, that one. I was actually pretty excited and employing our predetermined strategy in that race, but of course the safety car, we had those 2 safety cars, so yeah, made the race definitely, had to change our plans. So we weren't going to obviously pit, we wanted to keep our track position, and I was pretty confident anyway that the hards will last the whole race even without a safety car. So I was pretty confident with our tyre life. I was just a little bit worried about people like Stenny pitting. I was a bit worried that they were going to come through the pack and maybe challenge us at the end. But yeah, our pace at the end was really, really good. A lot better than race 1. I did make a roll bar change, but only like 1 click. So yeah, I'm a bit puzzled with that, but really happy with the result.
Fair enough. Well, yeah, perfect points from the weekend. Puts you up to 8th in the standings already, 1 round in, and crucially, it'll bring you a good haul in the team's points as well. How are things? From where you saw? How did things go from the other half of the garage?
Rossi was struggling throughout the week, just with overall pace, but yeah, he found quite a lot last couple of days. Yeah, me and him worked a bit of setup work last night, and yeah, he found a bit of pace, and yeah, Lockie finished. He did pretty well, P7 at the end there, and yeah, of course Zach as well. He had pretty good pace, just a bit unlucky with a few incidents, and yeah, we also had Lewis in the box with us, calling some strategy and helping us. So yeah, I want to thank him as well. He did a good job.
Absolutely. Well, as I said, 8th for you out of tonight's racing, but you've done all you can tonight. Great work, and we'll catch you in what's going to be quite a few weeks' time for round number 3.
Can't wait. Thanks, Reddy.
Alrighty, moving on now down to second place in that race, and Wayne Walker. I don't think necessarily. Well, actually, no, I won't presume. Was beating Stenberg a focus you've been aiming for tonight, or was it sort of very much a happy accident that you ended up in second?
Oh, I think the plan is always to try and beat your competitors. I think both Luke and Kurt tonight had better pace than what I had. So yeah, to finish one of the races in front of Kurt, that's a bit of a bonus, I think.
Absolutely. So that means you two come out of the weekend tied for the round. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily help you as things sit. You are still a little bit behind in the standings, but to come out 2 rounds in and still be sitting second in the points order, that's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I think I just need to work on setup a little bit, try and get up to those 2 guys in front.
Absolutely. Well, we are a few weeks off of that next round, and I'd actually intend to ask Rosella his thoughts on it, but he has been there before, so I got some idea of where he sits on it. But for you, Wayne, have you been to Hamilton before?
No.
No. Okay. So
I don't think so.
what's your thoughts then coming into it?
I think I'll have to do a fair bit of practice to get up to speed, I think.
Fair enough. Well, great work tonight, Wayne, to finish equal second best for the round, and we'll be catching you in quite a few weeks' time for the Hamilton round of the championship.
Thank you.
And moving on now down to Kurt Stenberg. Didn't get to the top step at all tonight, but still leading away with the points lead overall. Do I want to ask about what your secret strategy was to try and beat Rosella, or are you going to hold on to that for one of the future times we're running this sort of format out?
Well, I'll just admit I was going to not pit like he was going to do. I was going to not pit and I was going to save fuel. And I was very confident in my numbers, and I was very confident in my tyre life. I built the setup to be better on the longer run on the tyres, and that was why I was set up the way it was in the first race. So a little bit disappointed. The safety cars completely miffed our plans, and then we got a bit of damage under safety car. So we thought we'd pit and we'd try to do it, but unfortunately the safety car went longer than we expected, and we put hards back on it in the lane. And I probably should have put softs on it and gone for a push, but I kind of thought at that point we have to try something different because we're not going to win the race where we're at, so we have to try something. So
Absolutely. Well, look, it definitely sounds like you weren't dealt the hand you wanted, or definitely not dealt the ideal hand. But you did what you could with what you had. Good work in the end, actually, holding off the very fast charging Will Devonish out there on the softs. And if his late race charging is going to go by, I think perhaps if you had access to the softs during the stop, you could have been up there. But still, second and third for the round is a good haul of points. Maybe it's not the top step, but crucially, you're doing what you need to try and hold on to that lead in the standings, and that's really what matters.
well, that's it. If we're not winning, we want to be second. I mean, that's the plan. And I thought we'd get back to. I was hoping we'd get back to second after doing a stop. But as I say, I think the safety car went 2 laps longer than we sort of expected, and we probably could have gone with softs. But I didn't think they'd have the life. So you're weighing up all the stuff you're weighing up. So, but yeah, it's a disappointing when we engineered ourselves to try and get a win tonight. But that's okay. I mean, we're not going to complain. I'm pretty happy. So it's just got to see what we can do in future rounds, because to win a championship, we're just got to make sure that we don't finish off the podium. And then we haven't done that so far. So if we can keep that up, that we should be on. Because that's the goal. I'm going to be honest. That's the goal here. So
Absolutely. Well, last question then, because I'm pretty sure from my notes you were here the last time we raced on next round circuits. What's your thoughts on Hamilton?
yeah, it's a weird one. I've done really well there in R Factor in the past, and I've raced there obviously here. And Luke beat me last time, and it was when Luke was an up and comer. So I think there's a bit of work to do and a bit of head scratching. But I think that was a pretty long race that time, and we're down to two shorter races, I think. So we can. I think we're a competitor there, but we're going to need a brand new setup philosophy. I think for that one, a totally different style of track for these cars. So bit of work, but hopefully we're competitive. I think we will be. So I'm sure if I can get the team together, we can get a good car out of our facility and send it.
Absolutely. Well, nice work tonight, Kurt, and we'll catch you after the Easter break.
No worries. See you then.
And that has been our Race 2 Podium Sitters.
Thanks, Roddy, as always, for the interviews. It's much appreciated. And you're right. The next circuit on the calendar is, of course, the Hamilton Street Circuit in New Zealand. We haven't been there for a couple of years. It's actually one of 2 trips to New Zealand this year. So April 19th for Supercars, and the week prior for the development series. If you want that date there as well, it is going to be April the 12th. So we have got a fair bit of time between now and when that happens. We have, of course, got the Easter break. So it is officially 3 weeks from today for the development series and 4 weeks from today for Supercars. So the drivers get a little bit of a break. And the round format, as we said for that one, is actually going to be a return to a format that we've had on several occasions. It is going to be a qualifying, the top 10 shootout, and there's going to be a pair of 100 kilometre races. So the Hamilton 200, as it was from when we ran it a couple of years ago, is going to be the same again, a return of the Hamilton 200. And then the second of the New Zealand rounds actually occurs a bit later on in the year, all the way in November, where we go to Taupo International Motorsport Park, which is the sprint race format. So a couple of different extremes in New Zealand this year, and we look forward to your company on the next one. So until next time, happy Easter, everybody, because that's what's happening next weekend, and we'll see you on the other side of Easter for round 3 of both the Dev Series and the Supercars. Bye for now.